The cold hard truth. Everyone really want to know what's going on with her show. Just get on the air and you will know it's Sandra. The queen of the mile road is here, helping people from everywhere. Get on the phone and you will hear Sandra. Now she will tell you how it goes, but don't you ever step on her toes, 'cause you will hear the cold hard truth from Sandra. They say she's the hero in town, helping people from all around. You get a call, your money is found, it's Sandra. Some will call her late at night just to say that there is a fight, and she will not just leave it alone. She'll get up and call on the phone, and when politics starts on her show, everyone really wants to know the way the things will really go with Sandra. Some will start to criticize, get on the show and tell pure lies, but soon they will realize it's Sandra. And when they start to argue again, she'll pull the heads to the wind, and soon you will be a friend of Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. Every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone got to hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone got to hear from Sandra.
All right, folks. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Happy Monday. Give me a second here. Just sorting out our links to send out to everyone. Of course, I am aware of just a few little bugs in the studio, and I've discovered someone who doesn't follow instructions very well. I've just sent them a stern message this morning. So, yes. Okay. Let me just see here. Let me get these links for you guys really quickly. And then we will be on our way. All right, folks. Yes, good morning. Good morning. So lots of things happening. We do have to get to some of these today because unfortunately, what can I tell you except, wow, I thought 2026 might have been better with the driving, but dare I say, not really. We've had several accidents over the weekend that prove that we really need some serious attention to driving on Cayman's roadways. It's just, I hate to use the term getting bad to worse, but it's certainly not getting any better. Can I say that much? Because that's the truth. You know? Oh, my goodness. I don't know what to say about y'all. The driving is atrocious, Cayman. You guys have got to do better. I mean, it cannot be that simple, that difficult. My apologies. It cannot be that difficult to actually drive on these roads that we have here. What's so difficult about it? Explain it to me. Because maybe if I understood, I would be in a much better position to, have a discourse around what's really going on here. It's just shocking, quite frankly. Yeah. Tell me, help Auntie understand. If you don't understand a problem, I suppose that you can't really fix it, right? So I'm here saying, I don't understand. I want to understand. As you guys see, I'm a person who needs to have a conversation to figure out where we are and what we're doing. And, I just don't see it. So I'm hoping that one of you can call and explain it to me. My goodness. We're going to get into all the nitty-gritty details here this morning. 936-2626 is the telephone number. I'm just sending out the links for everyone for the morning show. Like I said, we're going to keep our morning links consistent in the morning. So now they're not going to change. So that's just another little extra step for me to just test the links. Let me just make sure this one is on point. Yep. Oh no, that's still showing the wrong one. Give me 1 second. That's exactly why I wanted to test it, Let me see here. Strange. Something strange is going on in the neighborhood. Okay, let me just get a little. So, yes, there we go. All right, let me adjust one of the links because it's still sending you to the old show from Friday, I think. So let me just make the necessary adjustment here. It now says link updated. And let me just test it really quickly to ensure that it works. Okay. All right. So that one's good. Yep. This is the beauty of it. And let me just see here now. Okay, now I'm sending it to our respective groups. And there's a few seniors who asked me to send it directly to them. I try to remember. Of course, I can't say that I always will, but I do my best. Okay, all right. So everyone has the links. Good morning, K-Man. Happy Monday. Here we are rolling towards the middle of the month. I've got a few accident alerts that I need to notify you guys about. Apparently, oh my gosh, well, where do we begin? Let's start with the one from Saturday, because this is the most urgent one in terms of, we need to get assistance finding this person ASAP. This was a hit and run with a cyclist. I'm going to tell you guys that the cyclist is lucky to be alive. We all know the person. I'm not going to tell you guys who it is. They want to have some privacy as they try to heal and recover from this. And they really are going through a lot right now. So we want to respect that. Maybe at some point, because they are an avid cyclist, maybe at some point they will open up and speak publicly about this ordeal, but that's a matter for them to decide on and not us. So a friend to CMR for sure. I was so shocked when I heard about their accident. And I don't know if this person was drinking or driving. Well, they're driving, but I don't know if they were drinking and driving, or if they were just being reckless on the roadway. I'm not really sure, but we need to find this person because, they knocked down this cyclist. And needless to say, this person is a bit banged up. They did not stop. They left the scene. And the police are now looking for this individual. They didn't see it. And I was thinking to myself, do cyclists are there dash cams that are made for cyclists? Because my God, I'm encouraging all of you to get dash cams. Looks like the poor cyclists need them more than anybody else. Because, this happened at shortly after 6 o'clock. I think it was about 6:15 or so Saturday morning on the East-West Arterial, which is properly called the Creighton, hold on one second now, Rex Creighton Boulevard. And we need your help finding this person. So if you have, I don't know why the cameras are not operating on the Rex Creighton Boulevard. Somebody said they could use a GoPro. That's a good point. Yeah, very, very true. They could. I would recommend it. Cyclists, get yourself a GoPro. There's also one that, there's one I have here that's like an action cam as well. It's made by, I'm trying to remember who makes that one. Anyway, there's a couple people in that market, in that space. They make these, what's the term for them? Action cameras. Yeah. So, please do as much as you can. Thankfully, there were other cyclists there to help get him to the hospital. I hate to tell you, but you can't even cycle alone on the roadways anymore. That's just how dangerous Cayman roads have become. So, I'm going to tell you, I'm trying to remember who makes the, there's another one that not too long came out. Give me 1 second. I'm going to tell you who that is. But anyway, you can look those up. There are a few of them that are on the market in any event. So Let me see here. There's one called, let me see. Oh gosh. Oh, it's called the Insta camera. So Insta 360, they have a couple cameras. One is called the Go Ultra, but same sort of concept. And if you're in that world, you know, they make the clips where you can attach them to your headgear, your body gear, different parts of your bike. So they're designed to capture this type of thing. I mean, the crazy thing about it, however, is, you know, give me 1 second here. The crazy thing about it is you need a multicam dash cam as well for bikes. And I know the GoPro wouldn't quite work in that way. I mean, you'd have to have, what, 2 cameras mounted on your bike? But figure it out, cyclists, because I hate to tell you that unfortunately, these roads are some of the most dangerous roads around, for sure. And it's just not safe. So please, the cyclist did not see much. He does know that it is a light colored vehicle. So we're looking for a vehicle that has some sort of front end damage. So listen to me now. For it to be traveling in that area, chances are this person probably lives in Newlands that time of morning. I doubt anybody was going to work quite that early in the Newlands area, but you never know. So keep an eye out for anything. But I would say family members, somebody knows who this vehicle, it was actually heading into town. My apologies. It was headed to town. I just wanted to clarify that, actually. So they might have been headed to work, headed to town from Newlands. So we need you guys to be on the lookout for anyone, auto body shops. You guys are, you know, a good source of information. If you're aware of anyone who is coming in with front end damage, let's answer this call. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Morning, Sandra.
Hi, morning.
How are you doing?
Not bad. How are you?
Anyway, I was going home yesterday and I was on the bypass crossing Course Ulest and I found a very expensive drone almost in the road. So I picked it up. So if anyone is out there, anyone is missing a drone, you can either contact me or give you a call and you can give me a call and you can have the drone back.
And which bypass was this, to be clear?
This was on the West Bay bypass there just before you get to Course Ulest.
Okay.
In the vicinity of the water company.
All right, no problem. We'll put
All right,
put the alert out there. Thanks, my dear.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, thank you so much, that caller. We'll repeat that here in just a little bit in case someone is missing a drone. He said it's an expensive one, and they can be very, very expensive. So by all means, if you're missing a drone, please come forward. So yes, look at me. I haven't had a chance to put on my morning face or anything today. Welcome. I'll do that here in a second. Don't worry. So we're actively looking for a light colored vehicle. Let me see if we, like I said, he doesn't really recall much in terms of any real description, but I think it's going to have front end damage. So if you know of anyone who all of a sudden Saturday morning presented with front end damage, please reach out. So I am almost sure, he doesn't know what type of car either, but I'm almost sure that this person would be someone living in the Newlands area when you think about it, or somewhere out east. But for them to be traveling, just, you know, doing a little bit of inducement here for them to be traveling on that bypass at that time of the morning, they were most likely leaving Newlands after having slept in the area overnight. 90% chance they live in Newlands. So please, if you know anyone who has any sort of front end damage to their vehicle, reach out to the police and let them handle it. Some of you don't trust the police. You can send me the information. I'll pass it on to them. But obviously, the sooner we discover who this individual is, the sooner we get them off of the road. One of the things that we have to do from a road safety perspective is we have got to make leaving the scene of an accident a very, very serious offense. It should be a criminal offense to leave the scene of an accident that you're going to get jail time for. Because too many people find it easier to run and, explain themselves later. Oh, I don't know what happened or whatever. And then you find out, chances are they were drinking and driving, but that's a little bit hard to prove after the fact. So anyone who leaves the scene of an accident, especially where an individual has been injured, has got to face some more serious consequences than they currently do. Yes, I think that that's only fair. So we're hopeful that this person has a full recovery. We do know that they were in a lot of pain. And, it's going to be a little bit of a while before they'll be able to, no doubt, get back on their bicycle. Okay. What a mess. All right, give me one quick second here. And then we're going to talk about some of the other accidents that happened over the weekend as well. And of course, I need to say good morning to all of you. All right, give me one quick second. Okay, folks, good morning again. So just this morning after 1 o'clock, there was another serious accident right in the Savannah area. And of course, really, really crazy. This one, I don't know how these people walked away from this or if they did, but I haven't heard of any fatalities. So I'm knocking on wood and hoping that they walked away from this. But it certainly does not look good. And I'm still trying to figure out if this is a single car accident or if this is a multi-car accident. I can't quite figure it out. So I'm going to show you the video that we have and you guys can help me dissect this one. We just got it before coming on air. So let me just show it to you and then you guys can tell me what you think. It's pretty wild. This one is pretty wild. Again, the car is mashed up pretty badly beyond recognition. And once again, I really, I don't even know what to say. It's shocking. So give me 1 second here. So this one happened in the vicinity of the Savannah School. It almost looks like it's in the parking lot of the school. So give me 1 second here and I'm going to show you guys this video. Someone sent me 2 of them, so I'm just looking for the second one as well. But yeah, this is pretty wild. So hold on. Here we go. Yeah, this is the second one. All right. So it happened, it looks like right after 1 o'clock this morning, based on the number of people that sent it to me. After 6 o'clock, the vehicle was still there on site. It looks like some people were stopping and taking pictures of it and taking footage of it because it's so shocking. But anyway, here's what we know after 1 o'clock this morning apparently happened in the Savannah area. So let me show you both pieces of video and then you can tell me, does this look like a single car accident? Here's the first one. This fence, it looks like. Oh my God. We have it. And
I think it's jumping.
let me just mute that and play it again. So I see the school sign, and I think that tree is right on the school property. So they took down the whole fence and a couple fence poles. And yeah. Wow. Where they were going. Oh my God, they even knocked down, it's close to the crosswalk because they even knocked down the little crosswalk sign for the kids that says, cautious, kids are going to be crossing here because it's a school zone. So they knocked that sign down. My God, what the heck is going on? And then here we have another one. Look at this. It looks like it's only one car. It just ran through. Look at that. Jeez, oh my gosh. Mashed up bad. That's the back end of it, all crushed in. And completely, well, if anybody was in the back seat, they would have been seriously injured. I don't know how many people are in this car. Looks like another Honda Fit, not for nothing, but I could be wrong. But it's a Honda Fit size vehicle. And they can't really take much of a lick. So I don't know what y'all doing out here in these streets with these cars. Good morning, caller. Hello? Hi, caller. Hi. I can't hear you. 1 second for me. Let me just try unplugging this. 1 second, TD. Oi, oi, oi. Hello? No? Let me call you back. Let me just restart the phone. I charged it this weekend, so maybe it just needs a little reboot. Give me 1 second. I'll restart it and give you a call back. So again, we're calling for anyone who may have any information on the hit and run. At this point, this person might talk, as is often the case, or you just need to be observant. My apologies. About who's in the neighborhood. If somebody's covering up their car and they never covered it up before, they're hiding out. Those are good signs that they got something to hide, honey child. So please look out for them. Okay, let's see if we can. I think I can hear this working again. Let's call this caller back. My apologies, caller. Let's see what's going on here. Uh-oh, I still can't hear you. Oh boy. I'm
Good
still trying
morning.
to, oh, there we go. There we go. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Sandra. Well, first of all, Sandra, I know you want to touch on these issues, the tragic thing that happened over the weekend, and I'm of course concerned about those as well. But I wanted to say something about the report you had over the weekend about my matter and so on. The report is nice, is fair. I mean, it just gives the events is what happened. Is that something I can discuss now, or maybe this is not appropriate?
Give me a few just to wrap up this
Okay.
conversation. And
Okay.
then I do want to actually talk about your situation. So
Okay.
just keep listening, and I'm gonna give you an opportunity to discuss it.
Okay, very well. Thanks
Okay.
very much. We'll call you back then.
No
Okay,
problem.
cheers.
All right, my dear.
Bye.
Yes, something we definitely want to hear a bit more details about for sure. So so this one happened this morning. There's another one in Northside yesterday that was looked pretty serious as well. That one looked like it involved a taxi van or a bus or something. Did you guys see that one? Let's just pull that one up. Of course, we post all of these on social media for you guys to see. It's some kind of van. Y'all got to do better with the camera job now. I can't quite make out if it's a bus. Does it look like a bus? If they'd kept the camera up a little bit more, we might have been able to see more. But chances are, again, I want y'all to be compliant. We appreciate you sending in. We appreciate you sending in your footage. But of course, I always encourage people to be compliant when they're doing so. We're not trying to get you in trouble, and you could get a little careless driving ticket for this if you are driving and actually recording at the same time. So don't do that for the sake of getting CMR footage for sure. In fact, what you do instead is you pull off the side of the street. When you pull off the side of the street, you can record as much as you want. It's in public, so nobody can't say anything to you. It's a public roadway. Sometimes the police try to tell people that they can't record in public, and that's ridiculous. That sounds like the Nazis. Oh, I mean the Americans. Sorry. Yeah, because the Americans apparently issued something over the weekend, the federal government, Trump administration, telling people that it's an offense for them to record ICE. My apologies. I legit had to cough. Let me drink some water. So, trying to convince y'all that it is an offense to record ICE now. What a hot mess they're in. Oh my God. Anyway, it's not an offense. You are more than free in public. And if it's your private property, you most certainly can as well. Record all you want. When they put up caution tape around these situations, well, that just means that you can't go beyond the caution tape. But you have cameras that can zoom in and out. So, improve on those camera skills for me, my citizen reporters. Please and thank you. The best thing to do, as I've said time and time again, get yourselves a dash cam, or at the very least, if you can't get a dash cam, at the very least, get yourselves a hands-free unit that you can put on your dashboard. Because when you put that on the dashboard and it's hands-free, you guys do know you have remote controls for your phones, right? I have tons of them around the place because I use them like when I go on vacation, I use my selfie stick. I don't have to physically touch the phone. I just press we set up the selfie stick and smile, and I press the shutter remote. They're cheaper. They're like cheap, $10. You can get some. You can even have some that zoom in and out. They're a bit more sophisticated. Some of them have a they like flip to back and front camera, for example. So yes, utilize those to your advantage. Oh, somebody else is sending me additional footage. North side yesterday. Okay, let me see. Oops. All right, trying to download this one. Give me a second, honey chill. But yeah, do a better job for me, because you know I'm kind of relying on you guys on these streets. Why is this one not downloading? Someone said to me, I think it was yesterday, day before, something was happening in, was it West Bay? Somewhere about, and they were like, oh, I'm sure you have someone in the area. I'm like, ooh, honey child. Y'all think we got like a whole staff complement of people all over the place, right? And I was like, not really, you know. Not really. Okay, hold on one second. Let me download this one. Yes, give me a second here. So, wow. Not good. I'm gonna mute this person. Oh, this person was stuck at work? Like they couldn't get out to come to work because of this accident? Oh my gosh. Sorry. All right, here we go. Here's another view of the north side accident. Can you tell me if it was actually a taxi, a bus, or just a work van? It looks like is that a bus? So there it is, 2 vehicles. Looks like that SUV and then the bus. Ambulance had to attend to the scene. Looks like they have the stretcher out, assisting someone. So yeah, wow. One thing I know about North Side, I went up there recently for the New Year's and I hadn't been there in a little minute. I tell you what, the minister has put in more than enough speed bumps to slow y'all down. If y'all still speeding, we got a problem, Houston. So it was a work van. Thank you so much for clarifying. In the middle of the afternoon, I don't know where you were rushing to go or what the situation was. Like I said, Minister Jay has put in speed banks down, NRA, by his request, no doubt, to try to slow you guys down. You know, North Side and East End in particular, South Sound too, but sleepy little villages in the sense that the actual houses are literally right on the street because of how, you know, the area was built out. So there's not a lot of maneuvering room here. In fact, North Side's roads are probably a little bit wider than South Sound, for example. But y'all need to do better. All right, I put on a little bit of my face here. Let me show you guys. Ta-da! So much better. I was looking like death warmed over this morning. All right. What other accident? Oh my gosh, there was a boating incident. Police haven't said anything. I don't recall having seen anything about that as yet from the RCIPS, but what I can tell you is that one does not look good. Some of you were being critical of the EMS performing, whoever was doing CPR, saying that it looked a little bit suspicious. They're like, I don't know if that's how you really do CPR. Listen, I'm not CPR certified at the moment. I used to be. I actually originally got CPR certified in high school. Because, you know, in the States, there are lots of opportunities to do things like that. And at the high school level, they offered it. And I thought to myself, why not? It's a good idea to get certified. And so I did. And I had my certification for some time, but, you know, to get recertified. And I must admit that I haven't gotten recertified. So something in the back of my head that I probably should do. And I keep always saying that I need to get one of those AEDs and keep around the place as well. Because they're important. They can save his life. So this boating incident, most likely one of her North American friends. Is it mandatory? I'm guessing not, but I think that this is something that should be considered, that it should be mandatory for all of these commercial boats, if you have a license to, you know, take people out on the water, that you should also have an AED on board. Because if something happens out in the water and it's going to take you 5 to 10 minutes to get to shore, to get that person to shore, even if you have communication, you can call 911 and the EMT and ambulance are waiting at the shore. Those 5 to 10 minutes to get on shore can make a world of difference in somebody's life, like literally life or death. So I really think that tourism, Minister of Tourism, to me, this is an easy fix that could save people's lives. As we see more and more, we're having incidents out in the water. And I really would like for, oh gosh, look at my poor hair. I really would like to see some effective change in this area, whereby we make it mandatory that these are on board and people are trained in how to use them, so that we can have, we can have some good opportunities for possibly saving someone. Because you're not going to save someone, to be clear, if you don't have any sort of equipment on board. Okay? So this is necessary. All right. We got some announcements that we're going to be making this morning as well. Okay, folks, let me see here. Okay. So let's do our best to see how best we can actually improve people's chances. I mean, some people are still not going to make it, but I think it does help significantly if you at least have access to an AED on board. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Let's read some of your comments this morning. Give me one quick second here. I suppose we'll get more and more information from the RCIPS today on that situation. But I think based on what I saw, it was not looking good. Okay. Unfortunately, a lot of people go on vacation. They do things that they don't ordinarily do, which means they're working up their hearts. They don't, when they're home, they don't diving, they don't boats, they don't go to Stray City. So it's not entirely unusual for people to die on vacation. Someone actually said to me on Saturday, they're like, Sandy, I'm convinced that they're killing each other off to get insurance money, and we're such an easy jurisdiction, no investigation needed. And so that's what's happening. Well, I'm not a conspiracy theorist by nature, so I don't know. I don't think that's happening often, if it does happen at all. It's probably very, very unusual. However, maybe, I don't know how many of them have ended up in an episode of Investigation Discovery, or what's the other one called? Not The First 48. There's another kind of investigative show where they solve murders. I was watching one on Facebook yesterday where they're like, something was poisoning her or someone. And they looked at the two closest people next to her best friend and her husband. I was like, ooh, honey, child. That sure does sound like a good episode. I was like, yes, sir. This is where it's at. Dateline. Yes, Dateline. They always have those types of shows, Dateline. Who did it? Dateline investigates. So I don't honestly know that any of that is happening. Like I said, I do think it's just more of a situation where, unfortunately, people aren't paying attention to their health. They come to they come to this jurisdiction and, overexert themselves, not in the best of shape, and kaboom, they have a heart situation on their hands. Yeah, it happened. Think about it, though. How many of us go on vacation? I know I do it all the time. You go on vacation, all of a sudden you're walking more than you walked at home, of course, because, you're going to all the ruins and Greece and up and down the hills. And oh my God, that reminds me of one vacation to Honduras that almost killed me. My shoes literally fell off. Yeah, this was actually a funny story. Our first vacation together as a couple, Marlon and I was like, you know what? I've never been to Honduras. He'd never been to Honduras. I was like, let's go to Honduras. So we did the Gamboa rainforest one where you spent time there on location. Wait a minute, is that Panama or Honduras? Which one is Gamboa again? I think that's Honduras, right? Gamboa National Forest or something. Anyway, it was quite an interesting experience. And they had more Gutis than I've ever seen in my life in a single place. The Gutis were literally just walking up to you. They were not comfortable, like directly engaging with you, but they were comfortable enough to be in the area, like running around just a couple feet from you. And they weren't running from you. So they weren't like, come and pet me, but they also weren't running from you. So it seems to me that they were very, very comfortable just kind of walking around. And then I found out later on that they were actually protected in that area. I think Gamboa's Panama. And then this one, oh Lord, something else it begins with. I can't remember now. It'll come to me. It's not Gamboa. I think Gamboa is actually Panama. This one was the Lodge at Pico. There we go. I knew I was off on that one. The Lodge at Pico Bonito. Really, really nice. Oh yes, they're still open? I thought somebody told me that they had closed. This is Nasaiba. Anyway, they have these excursions apparently that you can go on. And I underestimated what the excursion involved. So, I was like, it was such a nice lodge though. Oh, the breakfast was good, nature everywhere, all the greenery. I absolutely loved it. So they had this nature trail. And they're like, let's go on the nature trail. And I was like, oh, okay. And I remember having these new shoes that were, remember when it was a fad to have shoes that kind of felt like you weren't really wearing shoes, like they were minimalistic shoes, but they had a sole on them, right? But it was like kind of minimalistic, whatever. And I was like, oh yeah, these look good. And I took them on vacation with me. Never take new shoes on vacation. That's the first lesson. Anyway, I put them on and we decided to do this tour, nature walk tour, whatever. Oh my God. Nobody told me it was so rugged. First of all, it was really rugged. Like there were some areas of the terrain where there was no footpath. You were just walking on bush and getting scraped up by bushes and the whole 9 yards. So it was kind of rough. And yeah, my shoes, the bottom of those shoes disintegrated. And I was even fully halfway through the tour at that time. So I had to turn back. And so they were like, well, in order for you to turn back, we have to send a guide for you because, the area, let's just say that it was protected by military units with big AK-47s, AR, whatever the heck they are. Yeah, I guess they knew why. And so like at one point you could look down and you could see like the riverbed and there were the locals there, having a good time, bathing and whatever in the river, like swimming in the river. And I remember the guide saying to us that, they have to be very careful in this area because sometimes drugs come in like in the region and, the whole 9 yards. So I thought, oh my Lord, what a hot mess. Anywho, it was beautiful. Really impressed by all the nature of it all. But yeah, we, the guy said, okay, you want to go back? No problem, but I got to get you an escort. So, stay here and I'm going to call for someone to come for you. And the other thing is they didn't want me to get lost, obviously, on my way back. Whew, honey child, what a hot mess. So, it happens, you're overexerting yourself. Child, I was like, oh God, I hadn't walked this long in so long. And I really didn't anticipate that it was going to be that type of terrain. But you know what? There's a couple other people from Cayman in our group. They did like a whole weekend excursion thing, right? So there were some other people in our group, and they legit were like fitness buffs. I think one of them was like a lawyer or something from Cayman, and they were like hiking gear, muscled up, like they were having such a great time. And here I am, oh God, I can feel my little heart thumping a little bit too hard. Lord Jesus, take the wheel. So when you go on vacation, don't overexert yourself. Take it easy. Do the easy stuff. Go for the massage. Don't go swimming and snorkeling when you haven't swam or snorkeled in 20 years. Because your body's just not ready. Freddie, sorry. Barbara, good morning, says we desperately need police on the eastern side of the island, especially on Sunday evenings, as people make their way back from a drunken weekend. We were almost hit on our own way home yesterday by two idiots racing through breakers. What time was this, Barbara? I'm curious to know, because we caught some on footage as well, and I wonder if it's the same ones. East End is a racetrack, and we need speed bumps above and below the primary school, as even the buses are speeding through. Lord Jesus, not the buses. Okay, Barbara, let me show you the dash cam footage that we got yesterday. One was a blue car.
Clear.
So I'm sure you guys saw this, right? So this is the rear camera. Now, I keep telling you guys, these dash cams that we have 3 cameras: an interior camera, which is catching the interior cabin. Sometimes that's necessary. If you drive a bus, for example, this is when you're going to want to have an interior camera to keep an eye on things inside the bus. But even just regular cars, what's happening in the interior can matter. Then you have a front camera, and then you have a rear camera, right? So what you're seeing now, let me walk you through this. This is the rear camera view, because it didn't really make any sense to have just the front camera view here of when he passed us and flying towards an ambulance. You needed to see what was happening behind us. So here we are driving on the highway there, coming out of East End. We were actually out of East End already. And this is the rear view. So here we are. There's one car, white car of some sort behind. And then you see there's several cars behind him. As you kind of come around the bend, you're able to see a little bit more. There was a car behind him and then 2 more following. And look at what they do. They start to pull over. Now, technically, this is a dotted area, so there's nothing wrong with them passing here, although it's on a curb. And I'm kind of interested to know on that curve why you'd make that dotted, not a solid line, but there you go. All right, so it's dotted, and here they are. They start to pull out from the pack. Need for speed moment here. Okay. So here we go. They start to pull out, and there's at least 2 to 3 cars that they now have to overtake as they pull out, right? So here they go. Yep. They're the blue car coming fast ahead. Now, mind you, keep in mind that this is a 50-mile-per-hour zone, I believe. I'm doing 43. and this car is going to pass me. So let's just say that they were, and look at the distance that they came from and their ability to pass me. You know, they were clocking a little something, something. Okay, and then here they come. Here's a blue car. He's in the lead, coming straight ahead. The guy behind him following closely. Now the blue car, help me out, you sports car fanatics. What is this? What kind of car is this? This is a what? Honda? Looks like it could be. So there it is right there. And then the other car behind, look at the poor pedestrian, poor him. He better move over more in the bushes. And then, of course, I'm going to show you the front. So as this back camera is catching this angle, I'm going to show you here in a second. We're going to flip to the front camera and you'll see what was happening in the front. So this guy obviously recognizes he doesn't have enough time to make it, right? So he pulls over then right behind us, and there he is. Now, we could zoom in and get that plate number. I'm going to leave that up to the Popo to do that if they so wish. That looks like, is that an Audi? Yep, that's an Audi. So somebody says the other one looks like an Audi A5 or A7. I can definitely tell that he was racing with it. If that is correct, this one behind us now, dark colored Audi, that's definitely an Audi. Yeah. And like I said, it doesn't take much for someone to zoom in and get the actual license plate. So there we go. Then the ambulance passes them. So that's why he couldn't move. Now let's look at the front camera view to see what was going on. So we're going to switch now. So that's the back camera. And then you see him there. Now this is the front camera view, right? So this is what was happening with the front camera. So see, that's the moment. And again, wouldn't take a brain surgeon to simply zoom in right here. And you're going to get, let's back it up a little bit. Right there. Yep. Does look like an Audi for sure. Let me zoom in on my phone. It's hard. I can't do it in live time on the, oh, somebody else zooming in for me. Hold on. They look like, that looks like an A4, the second one. Okay. The blue car is an Audi A5, says another person. Let me see here now. And let me just have a quick look. So yes, I think that if you zoomed in on those vehicles, you'd be able to easily see the license plate numbers. So there he is. Now y'all say, oh, he had plenty time. Well, I think you're missing the point, really. Plenty of time. Count the seconds. 100. What? Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it wasn't collision time quite yet. So yes, he's there and the ambulance is coming, but he had to quickly get over because the ambulance is speeding in the opposite direction with lights on to obviously make it to someone who was in some kind of distress. This was on 6 o'clock. What time did the accident happen? And I don't think it happened. That would have been the North Side accident. Would it have been? Hold on. Let me check something. No, the North Side accident was after 4 o'clock. So that wouldn't have been that. This is something else that they were running to. So there he is. And then the ambulance is going there. But he was, so let's stick a pin for a second here, right? Road safety being one thing. He was definitely speeding, without a doubt. Like I said, you could see at this point, we had slowed down a little bit because, of course, I did see him coming. So I went from 43 miles per hour down to, at that point, 42 miles per hour, slowed down to 36, 33, 31. Because when an ambulance is coming, although these guys are in the opposite direction, so I don't really have to pull off. They have ample room to continue in their journey. You know, I still want to, nobody wants to impede an ambulance to the police anyway. So naturally, you slow down to kind of, you know, just be courteous, I guess. And there he is. He's gone. He is out of sight. So you figure out the speed that he must have been doing in order to pull that off. So the Audi behind, I think eventually we have, I'm trying to remember if we show him eventually passing. But that's the beauty of these dash cams. They're capturing it all. I mean, they're capturing, you know, the whole thing. You just have to pull down another snippet. So we have some more footage here that someone has just sent. Another accident, even the woman standing up was like, WTF, I had the right of way and she didn't stop. Oh, this is one in town. I need to ask you a question about this footage though. You see the reflection that you have on your, hold on. I'm trying to see what I'm looking at here. Okay, let's review this one. You see how there's like a glare on your, it's like picking up the glare on the front, what do you call that? The windshield. When you had your camera, this is one of the cameras that we have, did you have him install the lens on it comes with a CPL lens. It looks like your CPL lens isn't on that camera. So I got to ask you about the installation. We have, what's his name that does them for us? Kevin Bryan. But I think your CPL lens is not, your polarized lens is missing. Make sure that's on. Because that's that reflectiveness, and I'll show you guys here who are listening to the program. That's the point of having the CPL lens, especially in the front one, because you get a lot of sun coming through and stuff. And so you see that glare. Oops. You see that kind of like reflective off of that's what that is. So make sure that your CPL lens is on. Maybe it needs a little cleaning, I don't know, but it doesn't look like it's really on because you're getting the reflection. Like you can see the difference of that versus this. You see how much more crisp this front angle is? That's when your CPL lens it cuts down. It's like a polarized lens. You guys know polarized lenses from like glasses and stuff. This one quite doesn't look like it's on. All right, let's have a look at what we're looking at here. So this is in Georgetown. Car going. So he doesn't stop. What the heck? So he goes through the roundabout. This is right there by RBC. So car coming through the roundabout. And I'm telling you, with these dash cams now, you notice all sorts of bad driving. People breaking the laws left, right, and center. All right, so here we go. So he's coming around that little miniature roundabout there. Boy, K-Man loves a roundabout. RBC, see that stop sign? Does not stop at all. He rolls right through the crosswalk, right through the stop sign, and just keeps going. What a hot mess. Yeah. Oh my gosh. What a mess. NOSA. So the person says that I can't, where's the woman in the crosswalk? There's somebody in the crosswalk? Let me see. I see the cyclist. I see the cyclist right there. Where's the woman? But anyway, this person says, even the woman standing up was like, WTF, I had the right of way and she didn't stop. Where's the woman standing up? Because I think I'm missing her. Okay, where's the woman? Is there one right by that tree and I'm just not seeing her, like kind of close to where the cyclist is? Okay. I'm not really sure where the woman is. But there you have it. People just running through, you know, stop signs. We saw one last week, run through a red light. So this person says, hey, Sandy, that blue car looks like a guy I know. Please keep me anonymous. He's always flying if it's that person. His name is so-and-so from Bodden Town. always going one speed, and that's fast. He used to work at NCB, but not 100%. It's him because he does have a car like that one he just showed, like the one you just showed. Well, it's not gonna. Oh, they think it's their window tint. You have tint on your front window? Huh. Maybe try taking it off then. Take off the CPL lens because the tint, something, try taking it off. It might actually look better. Okay. Yeah. See if you take it off, if it's better, because if it's already tinted, you may not need that. All right. So, Popo, you got work to do. Like we said, they said they want this evidence, so send it in. We'll forward it to them, and they can zoom in, get the plate numbers. Let's start holding each other accountable on our roadways. All right. Thank you so much. So the Ministry of Education and Training is hiring, and they are looking for Caymanians, and they have a number, I think it's over 20 positions available. So let's go through some of these. We encourage you to apply. They have positions as early intervention program coordinator, educational psychologists. That's no doubt challenging job, but somebody's got to do it. And who better to do it than we, the people, Caymanians, that is. They have literacy coaches, occupational therapists, primary mathematics specialist teacher, school counselor, primary specialist teacher for PE, Spanish, and ICT, school inclusion specialist, school inclusion specialist teacher. I guess there's a difference. Speech and language therapist, pathology, student progress leader, teacher at the primary level. Deadline for these, by the way, is January the 18th. So just a few days away. They have early intervention program coordinator. Did I read this one already? Oh, yes, sorry. I think that's the same one. Oh, yes. Teacher for secondary art, business studies, English, home economics, humanities, ICT, mathematics, music, PE, science, and Spanish. Teacher for special schools, teacher for English as a second language, teaching and learning coordinator, and even on Cayman Brac, they're also looking for primary mathematics specialist teacher, teacher for secondary English and special schools. So number of positions there, folks. Please go to the government website and submit your applications. Morning, Aliano. Aliano says that's not going to work, and we have a police force that seems to be stretched thin by the looks of it. But come on, Cayman, this road issue BS needs to stop. What isn't going to work? I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. Were you referring to Barbara's comment that we need police in the Eastern District of the island? I mean, listen, the more police presence on the roadway, and the thing about it is, we kind of know when the kind of hot areas, like not for nothing, but these kids on the illegal bikes that are speeding up and down, we kind of know exactly where they are all the time, right? Their Prospect area, their Newlands area, up and down Hearst Road. Just set up a couple cruisers to sit there and watch them. You'll be able to pick up a few bikes. Sandra Coe says to Barbara, the entire Cayman is a racetrack, very dangerous. Miss Sue agrees and says these crazy drivers are out on the roads on a darn death wish. Oh my God. Aliano says they can't record people in public is ridiculous. You're in public, not a private location. Of course you can record. And we've had that, all the time under previous police administrations. And, when they come up to me with their foolishness, I'd be like, officer, Please go educate yourself. Because you're not telling me that I can't record. Come on now. In fact, the last time we had an incident, uh-huh. The last time it was the one lady who had gotten in the ocean and we were doing a live stream. You know, the police were saying, listen, we can't stop you from recording. Thank you, Anthony. We can't stop you from recording, but, you know, we'll set you up at a particular location. Yeah. All right. Yes. Lord have mercy. All right, Miss Charlene, good morning to you. Irvin says, yep, that's an Audi. Island Pearl says, yep, that's an Audi. Morning, Felicia. And Gabby says that an ambulance was coming. Imagine if he had hit that ambulance and then what? Real Deal says this is a result of government after government ignoring the importance of keeping infrastructure at the pace of development. Was too focused on revenue, nothing else, so we suffer for it now. Well, infrastructure is one thing. How many roads do you need is another question. You know? So what you gonna do? No matter how much infrastructure you have, we have to ensure that people are still sensible. Did you guys see the accident in Jamaica that killed a tourist? I think they're like in their 60s. Hold on one second. Let me just demonstrate to you what's happening, not just in our roadways, but our regional partners as well. There was another accident yesterday that someone shared with me where 3 children were among 4 killed in St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland border crash. You know, because again, these people are driving like a bat out of hell. No concern whatsoever on the roadway. That's most of the time it's speeding that's killing people. Now, I haven't really watched this video yet. The Jamaica Gleaner had it up. There was another one. Oh, yes, this was a U.S. national that died in the Ocho Rios car crash. Let me show you guys this one as well. Both of these happened over the weekend. So, you know, these people are not slowing down. It's like they don't care. They don't value their own lives, and they certainly don't value your life. So this was a 64-year-old American who was a passenger in a car. So let me just show you both of these fatalities that happened over the weekend in Jamaica. And we get such a mixed bag here of drivers. We get the worst of the worst, the speed demons from Jamaica who think that these are Kingston roads or Ochi roads or whatever, which clearly their roads are no better. The road infrastructure is absolutely no better. These roads are not designed for this kind of speed for a reason. Look at this. Look at that. I have questions. Let's back up. First of all, let's just back up. One thing with Jamaicans is they don't like to drive on their side of the road, you know. They act like, I mean, okay, there's no middle lane. That happens a lot in Jamaica. They don't bother to put the middle lane down. But do you not know what side of the road you drive on? So look at this. This guy almost looks like he was driving in the middle of the road. Anyway, here he comes. He's driving. What side of the road do they drive on? Doesn't he look like he's on the wrong side? They drive on the same side as us. They drive on the left or the right. Jamaica drives on the left, right? So what is he doing all the way over there? Look here. So he's like veering off on the wrong side of the road. And then the other car, the white car coming from the opposite direction, tries to avoid hitting him. It didn't really help because then he hit a light pole and ran right into, looks like part of a wall as well. Why are the power lines so low? I was like, these power lines look like they're down in the street. So unfortunately, an American got killed. I wonder if they found the other car. Does anybody know if the car that they almost collided with? Wow. Oh my God. Well, that national anthem, everything. Wow. He was trying to avoid the car and then I'm confused by this accident. I am so confused by this accident. He was tooting because, you know, like when you're going country, right? And you're like on Junction Road. Oh my God. Whew. I hate Junction Road. I am just like, one time Marlon said to me, oh, could you imagine us like buying a low retirement home in the hills? I said, you got to be crazy. You expect me to drive this Junction Road more than I have to, more than once a year or once every, I don't go to Jamaica once a year, but once every 5 years? Are you kidding me? I was like, hell no. How often would I be going into Kingston to have to deal with this kind of calamity of a road? So when you come around the corners, you know, because it's like a little 1-lane road, basically, you got to be tooting people when you're coming around the corner because you got to swing wide. And yeah, I mean, toot toot, coming around the bend. I've always wondered why they don't put more mirrors and stuff up, but they've all gotten used to toot 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 toot, you know. And so when I hear this guy tooting, I'm like, why is he tooting? Is that coming around a corner where he wouldn't be able to see? Like, he's just on the wrong side of the road, and I'm confused as to why. What kind of bend is that? But those power lines are really, really low. Why are they so low? Is that power lines or is that something else I'm looking at? What are those cables? Those are power lines, right? But they look like they're in the road. They're like hanging down on the road. Is that because of the accident, the hurricane, why they're like that? I'm confused. I don't know. Somebody needs to explain that one to me. And then here's another one yesterday. Again, being reported by Jamaica News, 3 children among 4 killed in St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland border crash. And I tell you one thing, when Jamaicans have an accident, they have the most epic scenes because look at this. Why is the guy hitting the other car over there? He trying to repair the car on the site? What's he doing in the back there? Oh, is he trying to hook it up to the... Oh, sorry. I was like, what the heck is he doing? I think he's trying to hook it up to the... I don't know why he's hitting that though, but I guess he's trying to hook it up so it can be taken away? I'm a little bit confused. Look at this. Multi-cars. Oh my God. Oh, he's just dead not to look. Oh my God. Wow. Didn't you just see Mark? They're pretty much the same Mark. Look here. So sad. Oh my gosh. 3 children. My God. What a mess. We got to do better. Marshall says the video was taken from an upward position looking down, and that's why the power lines look that way. But then why did his car actually touch the power lines? If the power lines are like up, like how they are here in Cayman, the car didn't go flying through the sky. I mean, it flipped, but that still doesn't explain why the car would have been touching the power lines. So that's where I'm like, what's this? How is it possible to touch those power lines if they're really up? I get what you're saying. The camera is at the top of that building, right? But look here, right there, boom. And then he actually hits the power lines. So it's almost like the power lines are down in the street. It's weird. I don't know. Island purled and said, I'm sure that the passing car heard the lick and they didn't even stop, but that's because they knew they were in the middle of the road. Yes, the other car was going at a speed, both at fault. Ms. Jean says, please do not forget the loud, disgusting music, clear disrespect, and a distraction. Real Deal says the fact that we still have primary roads that are only one lane each way is the issue. But how is that an issue? I mean, this is an island, Real Deal. Let's be honest here. We're not expecting our little island to have primary roads of 4 or 5 lanes. If you want that, you jump on a plane and go to Miami or Tampa for the weekend. That's island life, is normally a primary road being 2 lanes and that's it. That is not the issue here. The issue here, drivers have no respect for the road rules and for doing the right thing in terms of the speed, staying off their phones, and not drinking and driving. That's the issue. That a pint. All right, we're going to get to Mr. Blakey here in a second. I know he wants to come onto the program and share some of his situation. So my daughter asked me a question yesterday, and it occurred to me that I am not doing a good enough job as a parent. I got to step things up. She must have heard, she doesn't really listen to the show, but I think sometimes if she's around certain people and they're listening, she does hear clips of it. So she's like, Mom, what are you saying when you say what a pint? What do you mean? What does that mean? She can't quite say it right. She's like, what do you say? What's the point? And I said, no, what a pint? What's the point? No, pint. What a pint? And I said, it's just a Caymanian way of saying something. She's like, what does that mean? I said, oh God, I am failing my child when it comes to learning her Caymanian, what's the word I'm looking for? Dialect? Is it a dialect? Colloquialism? Lingo? What are we going to call it? I got to do better. We got to do more. So I mentioned it to another parent. She's like, yes, girl, we got to do more with these kids, taking them to all the national sites and making sure they have a few Caymanian friends. Because, in school, if you don't go to government school, there's a lot of diversity in the other direction, a private institution. So she's not really hanging out with a whole lot of Caymanians. Her little BFF PK is a Caymanian, but, I'm not sure that she's speaking with a Caymanian accent either. So we got to do better. So I was thinking to myself, I mean, obviously I've got lots of Caymanian friends, but I don't know that we're sitting down having a deep conversation in the proper dialect. I need an immersion course, right? So we surround ourselves, even my husband Marlon, he's Jamaican, but a lot of people can't figure out that he's Jamaican when they meet him because, he has to be around his people, really around his people for probably the accent to really come out. He speaks more mono, no very strong accent per se. And that's just his natural way of speaking. I mean, he isn't putting on, but I think it does change slightly when he's around certain words and stuff that he'll use when he's around all Jamaicans, he goes back home or whatever. So any suggestions, hit me up. and how we can introduce Gigi to a little bit more, you know, or where do I have to take her for her to hear some Caymanians sitting down chatting? Can't be around a Domino's table, but you know, so I was trying to get her to say, I'm like, what? Say it again with me. What a pint? What a pint? And she's like, what a point? What a point? I'm like, almost, Gigi, almost. So we got to work on it. All right. I want her to hang around with some Caymanian children one weekend so she can hear. And my mama tell me this and that, and you know, we got to get her into it now. Come on now. All right. Barbara says, I bought land in Portland from a highly respected JP John Blackwood. As we went every year, I'm still waiting on my title and the road to be completed over 15 years. No, sir. No, honey child. That's the next thing. You're talking about infrastructure. Real deal. Cayman has not done too bad with infrastructure. Aliana says, nah, she's okay. She don't need to immerse her. You don't need to immerse her in the Caymanian way of speaking without first enforcing proper intelligence and thought. Lord Jesus, what are you trying to say? I mean, you can speak with a Caymanian accent and be completely intelligent and everything as well. I mean, the accent itself does not mean that you're not intelligent. To be clear, I love our Caymanian accent. You know, I missed out on a lot because I lived overseas for 15 years, but I tell you one thing, anywhere I went in the world and I heard a Caymanian speaking, I was like, whiplash, you're a Caymanian? I remember the first time I was in university, because, you know, I never met any in obviously elementary, high school, middle school. But when I was in university at USF, some Caymanians were starting to come to USF. They still had a very high number at University of Tampa because y'all so bougie. You know, Caymanians, since government paying for it. Oh, we want to go to the University of Tampa. I remember when I went there for my tour and they're like, oh, we have a Cayman wing of all Caymanian students. I'm thinking, well, that's weird. I said, well, I'm not coming from the Cayman Islands and I'm not on a government scholarship. I'm paying for my own journey. So let's be clear. I have to save money. But I thought it was weird that they had a Caymanian wing at University of Tampa. I'm like, why? I said, when you go abroad to university, wouldn't you want to diversify yourself? Like, why are you hanging out with just Caymanians and stuff? Kind of weird. And I kind of looked at the lady who's giving me the tour thinking, okay, I didn't envision going to university and hanging out with Caymanians, but there you go. But when I was at USF, I remember the first time I ran into Cassandra Powell or Powery? Powell. I think they're Powells from Breakers. And she was passing by and I heard her speaking. She wasn't speaking to me. No, I lie. I think she actually spoke to me. She said like, good afternoon or something like that. And I heard her speak and I was like, not to be in your business, ma'am. Excuse me, but where are you from? You wouldn't happen to be from the Cayman Islands? She's like, yes. How did you know? And I was like, girl, how do I know? That accent is the most unique accent in the world. Mind you, when I was in the States for 15 years, I only came back home like twice. But that accent was embedded in my brain. I was like, you're from Cayman? I'm a Caymanian. She's like, really? And I was like, yes. I feel so lonely here. But that's how I first met Cassandra. Yeah, right on. We were actually at an apartment complex off campus. And I can't remember if she was visiting someone or whatever, but she spoke. And just by saying those few words, I knew she was a Caymanian. I was like, oh, you're a Caymanian. OMG. It is the most amazing accent in the world. All right. Good morning, Sophia. Okay, let's get to the situation here with Mr. Belika. Let me just pull up the story because I didn't write it, so I need to refresh my memory on what this is all about. But basically, Mr. Belika has found himself in a bit of a situation here where the court has issued a protection order against him for stalking. Now, I gotta tell you, Mr. Belika, this is a new one on me because it doesn't really happen that often. But the story says, and of course, Renee would have relied on the documents, that the Cayman Islands courts have issued a protection order against attorney Belika Simamba, 70 years old, and he's accused of sending a series of threatening emails to a former Strata Complex chairman during a dispute over unpaid fees. So Acting Justice Alistair Walters of the Grand Court ruled on January 7th that Balika Samamba stalked Julie Arnall, 68, through a months-long campaign of offensive communication that left her fearing for her safety. Okay, Mr. Balika, this is where you call in because I have questions about what this included exactly. I have questions. Oh, the person says the car hit a pole that was probably connected to the main lines. Okay. Okay, so all right, let me give me 1 second. Let me just see if I can get him on the WhatsApp here. Dun, 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 dun. Where is give me 1 second. Oh. All right, so Mr. Balika, let me see now. This is your chance to call in. There you are. Okay. All right, so give us a call because I have questions about this situation and exactly what transpired. So it goes on to say that the case centered around a dispute at a South Sound Strata complex where Arnall served as chairman of the executive committee. Not for nothing, but can I tell you how much I dislike stratas, generally speaking? I've always said that I would not purchase another apartment complex ever because it only takes one strata member to make your life miserable. Turn down your radio for me. And yeah, it's challenging to deal with stratas. I find that they're a little bit too challenging at times. Okay, Mr. Balika, I'm reading the story here, trying to get a feel for exactly what transpired. Like I said, I hadn't read the articles yet, but it says that the court has given this lady a protective order. Now, I have a question because you don't even live in Cayman, do you?
No, I spend my time in Toronto these days most of the time. So
yeah. So what good does a protective order do if you're in Toronto?
Well, you know, that's one of the things that really was argued in the case, right? Before we get into the details, just to answer that part of the question. A protective order is meant to protect you if you are in imminent danger of possible violence from somebody. And it is supposed to be preventive. Okay. It is not supposed to be punitive.
Right.
Okay. So if I'm in Toronto,
what are you gonna do? Slap her through an email?
Exactly. You know, how is that going to work? That's point number one. But it related to that. The issue that I argued in court was, look, this was a spat between two people around strata fees, around some legal issues. It ended in May 2025. That's when it ended.
So why are they issuing a protective order now if there's no longer a threat? Even
precisely.
If let's assume there was a threat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Now it's over. May to December or November. When did they issue the protective order?
December.
January.
December
was the Grand Court ruling, I guess, but why did it take May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December? So 7 months later, they issue a protective order. For what reason?
Exactly.
Where is the imminent danger in this?
Exactly. And more than that, you see, this was not like one of those spats which is like a generalized spat. Some people don't like each other and they are just going back and forth. It was a spat related to a particular issue. The issue regarding strata fees. And this was the time when she was a member of the strata committee. So after this dispute ended, the dispute ended around the strata. It ended in that one, she was not able to get the court order to sell my apartment. They refused to give her the court order, and she didn't want to go back. All other attempts she tried to use failed, and then she sold her apartment. She sold her apartment in the strata, and she left the strata. So as of May 2025, she has no business with the strata. Okay. So in other words, the reason for the strata.
So wait a minute. When you were sending her these offensive messages, we are going to talk about what the messages say because they are offensive for sure. But when you were sending her, when you were sending her these offensive messages in May, you're saying that she was no longer a strata member?
No. The messages took place only up to May.
Oh, okay.
So in May, she sold her apartment and she resigned from the strata committee. So she had no power anyway to get in touch with anybody. So she left. So what is the problem then? Then she goes to court to try and get a protection order. And the protection order is given in December, 7 months after. Now, I just want to emphasize that in the 7 months that followed, I never contacted her by any medium, by email, by Instagram. You name any medium, whether it is a private medium or a public medium. I never contacted her. And even during the time that I was contacting her about those messages, it was only directly to her in relation to the strata matters. Now, why was I sending the messages to her? Look, the issue is this. I had a dispute with the strata. I took them to court twice. I won twice. They took me to court twice. They won twice. The details are not very important. So they owed me costs.
But wait a minute. They won it and you won as well?
Yeah, okay. It was like this. They wanted to sell my apartment. They went to court to try and get an order to sell the apartment. And the court said, no, you haven't met the procedures necessary for the court to order selling of the apartment. Okay. So the court.
But that doesn't sound like a win. Did you mean to say that they won or they lost? Because you just said they won twice and you won twice. I'm trying to figure out how you could both win twice.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to now just figure it. Okay. So the first time I went to court, the first time they went to court to sell my apartment, I won in the sense that the court refused to give the order to sell. Okay. Then I went to court to sue them against the trespass to my property, because she tried, even after she refused to get the order to sell, she continued now to try and find a way to sell my apartment. She asked a surveyor to come and value it, who came and valued it. Valued it, by the way, at 365,000 CI.
So basically, this is because you owed strata fees, and this is an interesting thing because we have one of our deep dive sessions coming up this week on CMR TV is about this concept of someone owing for strata, and one of the things that apartment stratas can do is try to sell your unit when you owe for strata. So, so you owed outstanding strata fees, and they were trying to sell your apartment. They were unsuccessful in getting it sold. So you consider that bit a win for yourself. So there was a lot of back and forth. So let me ask you a question now, right? Because Justice Walters described it, it says here in the article, as shockingly gross, highly offensive, and highly abusive. You did talk about her, like you called her a piece of, it's not 9:30 yet, but the S word. You talked about her having smelly private parts. And it says you actually said, and this is a quote, "I will pay the legal fees after you pay my legal fees and after you start drinking the juices from your smelly parts." Why on earth would you say that to her?
Okay. First of all,
I gotta tell you, I'm a little bit surprised by the content of what you said to her. So we have to understand why couldn't you? You're 70 years old, Mr. Balika. You're a professional attorney. You have a wide number of words at your disposal. Is that the best you could say to her?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, as I say, Sandra, I don't apologize to her, but I'll tell you what the context is.
Mm-hmm.
When she started sending me these emails, about the costs. We've talked about the costs.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, a cost like about 22,000 was awarded against me. Mine also had to be assessed. But that's 22,000. No, not awarded, sorry. The amount of money had to be assessed by the court. So I told her, I said, look, you owe me some costs. I owe you some costs. We have to go to court so that they are assessed. You know the procedure. Normally, you can claim costs, but the court has to go out there before you can enforce anything. The court has to say, yes, here it is. This is the amount. So I told her, I said, well, until we go to court, I do not owe these fees because you owe me fees, I owe you fees. So why do you keep sending me these? She kept sending me the bills. She kept incurring new bills. Every single month, she was sending me these bills to say, can you pay them? I asked her politely for months. I said, please stop sending them. When we go to court, when they are determined how much I owe you and how much you owe me, then at that point I owe them. But please stop sending it to them because under the law, you are technically harassing me. Because under Section 88A of the law, it says that if you keep sending unwanted emails, unlawful emails, electronic communication and so on and so forth, that is harassment. And under Section 88A of the Penal Code, I don't even have to feel any physical threat. The mere fact that you keep doing that, that's harassment.
Well, I'm so glad that you brought up this section of the law because our audience will know that this is the same section that they're charging me under in relation to podcasts. Now, this might be an example, what Balika is describing here, this constant and ongoing communication. That's an example of what harassment is defined as. Talking about someone during a podcast is not, under most instances, any form of harassment whatsoever. But continue, because it's interesting as you talk about that section of the law.
Yes, because if you are doing a podcast, this is a news item. Okay, a podcast is basically a news item. You are talking about it, and you may talk about it. It
doesn't even have to be. I mean, it's a podcast. I mean, anyway, freedom of speech. But let's continue.
Yeah, it's freedom of speech. You are speaking about that, and you can speak about it more than once. You know, that kind of thing. And the difference also is that, you see, in my particular case, she was sending these emails to my private space. Okay, my emails. You are sending me to my emails and saying, you know, can you pay this fees? And I keep saying that you know, important. I don't owe you that.
Yeah.
Now. Can you imagine for 18 months you are proceeding and you keep asking this person to say, stop sending the emails. She doesn't stop. Meanwhile, she gives my email address to a surveyor who contacts me. She gives out an unauthorized, my email address. She gives it to a surveyor to come to me and say, you know, we are happy to sell your apartment if you want to. She had no authority to do that. The same surveyor goes to the house and starts measuring up to value the place without any authority or any court order. Okay?
How did they get inside they went inside your unit?
No, they didn't. Okay. What they did, because they came outside now and were like peeking in and taking measurements and looking outside. I mean, they did get onto my property without my authority. Okay? They just didn't get inside. So again, that is why I took them to court. And then on top of that, then when she found that she was not able to sell the apartment, then she spoke to some people in the apartment. She said, you know what, you guys, can you sign a document so that we can sell this apartment?
You mean like your tenants?
No, two other owners in that particular place.
Oh.
Two other owners in the strata, those who were members of the committee. She went to them and said, can you sign a document? Since the court has not given us an order to sell, the substitute for that is if you can sign a document for us to sell. And then she told them, unless you sign,
how can strata members sign a document that supersedes what a court is able to do? I don't understand that.
Well, exactly. I don't understand that either, because if you go to court and they say that you don't have the power to sell, but what the lawyer she was dealing with apparently told her, you go and tell these people that they should sign a document to sell the property because we can do that so long as they agree. And then she told them, she said, you know what? If you don't sign this document, you incur legal liability. Can you sign it? So one of those two people got in touch with me and said, I'm being forced to sign this document. I mean, what is the position? Then I told her, I said, well, the court said you can't sell. So she refused to sign. So, I mean, it just went on and on and on until finally those emails which I sent to her, this was towards the end of it, after I had begged her to stop sending these emails and to stop harassing me and those kinds of things. And then once I used that language, which, by the way, I don't apologize for, once I used that language, then she went to the police. But the other thing I want to say is this. You know, one of the things that we are, as human beings, sometimes is a problem is this. When we are treated in a terrible way, we still expect people to behave as if somehow they are saints. If you come to me and you push me once, you push me a second time, I punch you in the nose. You can't tell me, oh, but you see, you punched me on the nose. Surely you should know better than that. There is a way in which I have a right to protect the privacy of my security of the person. And so I had to say something to her to get her off me. And by the way, they were trying to sell my property cheaply so that they could make a profit, because in that strata, the last 2-bedroom apartment which was sold was 425,000 CI. 425,000 CI. Mine is an end unit near the pool with some extra ground out there. And they found a valuation for it for 365,000, 75,000 less. If anything, mine should cost a little more than that. Clearly, they were involved in some kind of ring to try and sell it off cheaply and make a profit out of it. I couldn't take it. And I told her, I say, you can't do that. Now, the other thing about the language, the mere fact that you use language of that type does not amount to stalking. Okay?
Well, harassment. And
harassment, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't amount to harassment, because every time when somebody uses an F word and this and that, you are stalking me. No. At the end of the day, you also have to look at what the behavior of the person was. How did they behave? If they were acting in a manner which is the case here, they were being what you call passively aggressive. When somebody does that, there's a definition if you go to YouTube. It's called passive aggressiveness. You ask somebody to stop, but they don't stop. They keep just needling you and needling you. That is passive aggressive. So what I told the judge, I said, well, look, before you make a decision, look at her behavior. How did she contribute to it? On top of that, what she did was a criminal offense, actually, because she was harassing me, and she sent these 18 emails saying I should pay money which I don't owe. So that's why I eventually filed a complaint against her to the police.
And of course, what happened with your complaint to the police?
Well, they asked for some documents. I gave them the documents, and they haven't gotten back to me yet.
And when was that complaint made?
Oh, let me see. This is
it was
January.
Made actively during the time that she was doing it. So before she made her complaint?
No, this was, I sent this, I think, in about November last year. Okay. November. Look, I wasn't going to send the complaint, to tell you the very truth, because I thought that the matter was over. And you know what I mean? You don't want to make a complaint unless it's necessary. If she was going to leave me alone after that, I wasn't going to make a complaint. But eventually, once she went now to get a stop order from the police, I said, well, you were committing an offense yourself. Now, what the lawyer said, oh, but you see, this was being filed only after the other complaint was filed. I said, no, but that's not the issue. The issue is, look at it, was she committing an offense or not? When I complained is not the issue. The issue is, does it constitute to be an offense? To me, it constitutes clearly an offense if you read that section, and I'm waiting to see what the police are going to do.
It becomes relevant in the sense that And the average person would see it as retaliation. So in other words,
Yes.
you only filed
Yes.
the complaint because she filed the complaint, and her complaint was actually
Yeah.
getting traction with the courts and with the police. So that's where it's important to know when you
Well,
filed yours. Because if you were
it-
really bothered and threatened by her constant, as you say, harassment of you and stalking of you, maybe you should have called the police, because they have a lot of time for this sort of thing. So maybe you needed to contact them. Now there is a
Well-
bit of an anomaly here where she says that she felt threatened by you, and you
Mhm.
say that you were saying that you'd be taking her to court. Is there any
Okay.
other way in which you my apologies, in which you threatened her? Because threatening to take someone to court isn't, I mean, I didn't think that was stalking necessarily, but
Okay. Good question, Sandra. Good question. Because
did you ever
two of
threaten
my
her with
emails-
physical violence?
no, I never threatened her with physical violence. In
Okay.
fact, two of the emails, one of them I specifically said, and it is quoted in the judgment. I specifically said, if you continue behaving this way, you'll have an arduous time with me through the courts. I specifically said through the courts. That's one. Then another email which I sent to her, I told her, I said, if you do not comply with the law, this is what is going to happen to you. So do you see, you've got two specific emails which are saying, yes, I'll cause you a problem through the law. So how do you go out now? And then on top of that, the other emails, none of them were threatening physical violence against her, apart from telling her, calling her all those words and so on, which was another way to try and get her off me. Okay? So, I mean, at the end of the day, to me, what a court should do, it should say, yes, let's look at the way she behaves. She was being passively aggressive. Was she being provocative? Yes. Was she being persistent in an illegal way? Yes. And therefore, if you responded to her in that way, is that within certain, reasons reasonable? Okay? And that's what the court should do. Was it proportional, But to me, the court didn't do that. But let me tell you another thing, which is a problem with the way the court was conducted the case. Do you know that there is no audio, no video, no written or typewritten record of what happened? Nothing.
What
there
happened
are no
where?
issues in court.
Oh, of the hearing for this particular matter?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
there
But
isn't.
wasn't it done by Zoom? Because it said you joined in, so they don't have a Zoom recording
Yes.
of it?
Well, they don't. They say they don't have a Zoom recording of it because I asked them for a Zoom recording. They say they didn't have. I said, do you have an audio? They say they didn't have. Then I said, do you have any judge's notes? They don't have. So so that is a problem now. You know why that is a problem, Sandra? Because under Section 11 of Section 11 of the Grand Court Act, it says very, very clearly there that the Grand Court shall be a court of record.
Yeah, they're supposed to record it.
Exactly. It's a court of record. Court of record is a concept. It means that everything that takes place there must be recorded. Why? Because later on you want to use it. Maybe it is to sue or maybe to appeal or anything like that. There is absolutely nothing. So all he has is simply the judgment. And there are certain things I would have wanted, to be frank with you, which were said at the hearing. I asked Denny Warren Jr. to attend as my Mackenzie friend, and he attended. And you know what the judge did?
So how did he attend? He was on the Zoom as well?
He was on Zoom. He was on Zoom as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was listening in. So what happened is that the judge then started to give his ruling. And he gave his ruling and he says, okay, I'm going to grant the protection order. And then I said, oh, Your Honor, you haven't dealt with the issue of Sandra Hill against the Crown, because that's the leading case in the Cayman Islands today, which will tell you about how to deal with these issues about rights which are protected under the European Convention of Human Rights. You haven't dealt with that. It was in my skeleton arguments. You know what the judge said? He said, well, I haven't read that case.
Well, that is funny.
So he has already given a ruling, a verbal ruling, to say that I'll grant the order, but he says I haven't read the case. Then he said, well, but that case, you see, it had to do with the rights of journalists to report.
No,
I said,
no. No, there's a wider application. It wasn't just obviously in my specific capacity, but as the judges said, the 3-panel judge said, even before the hearing and before their decision, they said, this is the case now, this situation with Sandra Hill, your case is going to be the case that we will set down the law as it relates to freedom of speech in the Cayman Islands. And this is why even people who are trying to be dismissive of this case simply because they don't like me, this has gone down as a precedent-setting case on record. This is the litmus test. And that's exactly what the judges said that they were doing. They were going to set down what the law should be in the Cayman Islands as it relates to freedom of speech in the Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
So any case that comes up, and this is my argument now, that obviously the DPP probably didn't read it either. Because, they lost, they conceded before they even got to court that they didn't have a case, and they accepted that, it was completely wrong for them to have charged me and blah, blah, blah. And, now they're coming back and trying to have another bite at it for the same type of case all over again. So you got to read the case. That's how precedents work.
Yeah, let me come back to that because I want to talk about that in relation to your case. But let me just conclude one little point about what happened in the case. The other thing about it, you see, I've challenged the constitutionality of this particular law. And the reason I've challenged the constitutionality is one, it basically allows a court to sentence you to a certain kind of sentence without giving you a chance to be heard. Because, I didn't have a chance to cross-examine the person. There was no hearing. It was all based on affidavit evidence. Under Section 7 of the Constitution, I've got a power to have a fair trial. How can I have a fair trial if you didn't give me a chance to question the person involved? I'm supposed to also have a power to under the same section, under E, to question any witnesses and so forth. So it's like I just come there and basically you are finding
her what is the equivalent of an emergency. I don't know if it is an emergency, but they certainly gave her what would be like it's almost like the equivalent of like a Mareva injunction, where they're like third party. The third party isn't there. They don't get to put up a defense really. It's an injunction without the other party having any knowledge or representation.
It's good that you raise the Mareva issue, because the Mareva issue is one where you give it as an interim one. This person might run away and so on. Can you give us this injunction?
It's type of an emergency injunction, but there has to be that element of urgency to it.
Exactly. And then what happens with the Mareva, as you know, is later on then you come to have a full hearing so that they can see whether they want to make it permanent. Okay?
Yeah.
But what they did in this case, is that basically they gave it as a final order. Okay. Now let me give you an example.
But I'm assuming that at that hearing, he was then giving you the opportunity to respond to whatever, make legal arguments against whatever it was that she had to say.
Yes, I responded to the legal arguments, but there wasn't a full hearing. Let me tell you what happens, for example, in relation to what is called in Ontario a peace bond. A peace bond is just a restraining order. Usually that happens in it happens in relation to domestic matters, like the spouse goes to the police and says this happened. But what happens in those cases is that they charge you, right? They say that you assaulted your missus. But then they say, we'll give you a chance for a peace bond. In other words, if you accept just that you were responsible for it, but without pleading guilty, we will not record a conviction in relation to you, but we will say that you can't go home in 12 months. Now, if you do not want to sign that, then you can go to a full trial. But with your consent, you can sign it, and then they let you go, but there's no offense which is recorded. Now, in my particular case, they asked me, they said, well, can you sign that? I said, well, I can't sign that. In the first place, I don't accept responsibility, and secondly, I haven't been charged with any criminal offense. At least I'm not appearing in this court.
So this is a civil order?
Exactly. It is a civil order. It's a civil order. So for me, I'm questioning even the constitutionality of a provision which allows a judge to give you a final order. This is not like an interim order to say, let's come back another day for a full hearing. No. In other words, the way they have treated me is like, for example, look at your case, right? Mm-hmm. In your case, for example, okay, I don't want to give your case as an example because I do believe you'll be successful. But basically, if you are charged with an offense, they can say, okay, fine, we want to order a custodial sentence. You have been convicted, but we are going to give you a conditional discharge, which is for 12 months, you don't contact this person, and that's it. Basically, what they gave me is as good as a sentence. It is a sentence without me ever having been charged with anything, without ever having had.
Let me understand. What is the what exactly does this order, the protection order, say? What does it say that you can and can't do?
Basically, it says that I can't contact her and I can't be within 200 yards of her house, which by the way, I don't think I've never even been there. It's
and she still lives at the same complex?
No, she has never lived there actually, because the apartment was just an apartment she owns. She lives elsewhere on Grand Cayman. I just know the address because I had to serve some documents there, but I've never been there. I don't know exactly where.
Okay. All right. So she's an owner in your complex. I see.
She used to be an owner. So okay, I want to go back to what you were saying about your case.
Let me ask you a question though, because this article goes on to say that RCIPS has a stop notice in place. If you re-enter the jurisdiction, they're going to arrest you for, I guess it's an ICT offense under that section of the ICT. I think it's 97 or something, but
it's 90. I think it's the same one that 90, they charge you on.
Yeah, and it's in relation to the same woman.
Yeah, it's in relation to the same one. Now, the other issue about that again, Sandra, is this. Do you know that how I got to know that there was even an arrest warrant was because of the documents that she filed in court? Mm-hmm. Because the police issued the warrant, they didn't even talk to me. Now, the way normally you deal with offenses of this nature, especially offenses of stalking and these offenses which are open to interpretation, what you do is when somebody files a complaint, then you contact the person against whom the complaint has been made, and you say, "We are investigating."
I'm surprised that they're not charging you with bribery either, because it says that you said that you would.
Yeah.
What a hot mess. Okay, well, I need to tell you that that there are some people who are surprised. So let's read some of the comments here.
Some of the comments, yeah.
That have come in, right? So one person says, "Good morning, Sandy. Since Mr. Balika is a professional lawyer, he has a higher level of duty in his behavior than I think. He should have not sent those types of emails. In my opinion, that was unprofessional from a layperson's perspective as well as from an educated person. So do you have a higher duty of care as a lawyer in situations like this?"
You see, the only duty which is there is an expectation in the society that maybe you might not say that, but don't tell me that there are no lawyers who have used F words and B words and A, B, C, and so on. But to me, my argument regarding that is, look, if you are passive aggressive to me for a long time, and I beg you to stop, and I'm like 2,000 miles away. I can't even easily really go to the police and complain and ABC.
Yeah.
The pressure. Did
she ever say, in terms of, yes, I understand that she kept messaging you about, pay your shadow fees, but what was the tone of her emails? I mean, did she ever say anything about your race, about your private parts or anything like that? I mean, you kind of went in a direction that I'm
No, she
assuming the
never did.
conversation. Okay, so
No,
she
she never did. All she did was just kept sending me the emails. I kept telling her, please stop, Floyd, please stop. And deliberately, she would just send it to me just to get under my skin. So if you get under my skin like that, yes, look, I'll tell you that maybe I shouldn't have said that, but frankly, I don't apologize for it. I think she got under my nerve. She was trying to do that. She succeeded in doing that. And I think at the end of the day, when you look at the entire case, you must say as well, why were you doing something that you had no authority to do, to ask somebody to pay fees they don't owe, and repeatedly doing so and continuing to do so after they tell you that you should not do so? Okay? To me, that's my answer to that. And on top of that, then when you failed to sell my apartment, then you continued being aggressive in this through the surveyors and threatening people to say unless they sign, they might incur legal liability. I mean, she just got out of hand, and I just felt I had to tell her something to get her off me. And in any case,
okay, let's listen to a few more comments, because you definitely did tell her something. So this person says he is a rude, disrespectful, insulting, unprofessional, and gross excuse for a man. He can't even bring himself to answer your questions. I wonder if he would have spoken to a man in that manner.
Well, if you want to find out if I would have spoken to a man under that, oh yeah, of course, yes.
Okay.
Of course.
All
and by the way, the other thing about that is that, you see, this is the problem again sometimes. If you are a woman, sometimes you deliberately do certain things because you think they won't say ABC. Then when they say X, then you play the woman card. No. If you behave that way, you deserve what's coming to you, man or woman.
All right. Another person says, couldn't that only be defamation and way harder to prove? So this person basically says that, maybe you defamed her, but it wouldn't really be defamation if it was direct communication with her and nobody else. So you can't.
You've answered that. Yeah, you can't deliberately. I did not send those emails to anybody else. I sent them only to her because precisely then she can't sue me for defamation.
Yeah. Another commenter asked, why did he stop paying his strata fees? Did I miss something?
Pardon me?
Why did you stop paying your strata fees? Did they miss something?
No, I didn't stop paying them. I was paying them, but I fell into arrears.
Okay. So you owed some money.
I owed some money, yes.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, an aside, there was another person in number 2 who also owed strata fees. You know what she told the person also as well? She said, I'm going to take measures to sell your apartment as well. So for her, whenever somebody fell into arrears, she contacted the lawyer, can we sell the apartment? So that's how she was throwing her weight around. I just thought I should add that in.
Okay. Anonymous, that language he used is deplorable regardless of what happened. Very disappointing actions from him. I realize many people look up to him, but for many, many years, I recognize his superior complex and have been weary of him. And now this disrespectful and unacceptable communication has shed a light in the closet. I'm just telling you what people are saying. Another one has come in, said, good morning. I thought better of Balika Samamba. After reading the judge's comments, there's nothing he can say that will change my opinion of him. He can save his breath. No spin control can change the evidence in front of us. Sorry. They go on to say, nah, nothing he is saying justifies the words he has used to her. Sorry, that's why I do not own an strata any longer. When you owe strata fees, you pay. Looks like he was weaseling out of paying his bills and deflecting his behavior. He has used his knowledge of the law to threaten his way out of this bill. And now I understand why people do not like this man. When someone knows you, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. I am done now. So that was another opinion.
Well,
another person said it's not appropriate for him to bring racism into it. He owed the strata money, so pay. There should never be such nasty comments made to the lady, whether she's white or black. He's wheezing out because of his knowledge of the law. Disgusting. Glad he left Cayman. So you don't have too many people quite seeing it from your perspective.
My perspective is simply there was no legal basis to issue the stalking order. Yes, I do understand people are saying, well, what you've said was inappropriate and so on and so forth. But it's very interesting that nobody is saying, well, she was also wrong in continuing to harass me and so on. But apparently, anyway, people now are looking more at what I said. Okay, that's fine. I respect people's views, but my point really basically is there was no basis at all to issue the stalking order. I don't live in Cayman. I am 2,000 miles away. I had a spat which ended 7 months ago, and there was no reasonable cause to think that this was ever going to continue. And to me, that's what the argument is. And when I go to the Court of Appeal, that basically will be the argument, because if you got a problem with my language, that's a different issue. Okay, that's a different issue. But
I think people definitely have an issue with the language. So someone says frustration causes good people to say or do bad things, and of course the argument there is, my gosh, if you're going to say those types of things, at least don't put it in writing. Did you not think for a minute, let me not put in writing about the woman's smelly vagina? I mean, that is really kind of disgusting. You know, I can't work my brain around why you would say it to begin with, but most importantly, why would you even put that in writing? I mean,
let's put it this way.
This is where that law degree and all those years of experience has gone to waste, because it seems like you allowed this woman to pull you out in a way that is if that's what you're claiming, and people are saying no, he needs to take accountability for his behavior. Yeah.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, that's my character. I do not like people messing with me in that way. And once I give you a chance to be able to stop doing certain things, I do not have certain limits. And I will have to do that which is necessary to get you off me. At the end of the day, she deliberately acted in a passive-aggressive manner, and I believe that in a court of law, a proper court, it will be able to say, yes, maybe she didn't use any of those languages, but what she did was equally annoying, if it's not worse, to continue to try and tell me, pay these fees when she knows that I do not owe them. That I don't apologize for, but I respect the views of those people who are expressing views. That is fine, but that's my opinion as well. We just agree to disagree. Okay.
All right. I mean, I think your choice of words could have definitely been better for sure. I mean, So another person said that they have secondhand embarrassment. Doubling down just adds to the narrative that he's not stable. Oh my goodness.
Stable. Let me put it this way, Sandra. I'm emphatic. I don't like being messed with. I'm very emphatic. I'm very emphatic. If I find that you exceed the limits, and I also have exceeded my limits of patience, and I've asked you and so forth, then I don't apologize for what follows after that. Think of it this way. You have come, you've pushed me twice, I punch you on the nose. You can't say, oh, Mr. Billy, you can't punch somebody on the nose. How can you punch somebody on the nose? No. That's not the way it works, okay?
Well, you'll be happy to know, or not, I don't know, that Carrie's defending you. She says provocation. She provoked him. She is like that, cruel. So I don't know if she knows her personally, but she says she's a native Caymanian hater. I never liked or trusted her. Plus, I'm aware of other persons whom she has been incredibly racist to. But of course, you're also not a Caymanian, so that bit about her being a native Caymanian hater doesn't necessarily apply to you.
You know, for me, at the end of the day, you know, Sandra, we are not perfect human beings.
Yeah.
And
but I mean, listen to me. I'll be honest with you, right? I think the language was inappropriate in any circumstance. But if you were to say this morning, and this is where people are saying, why is he doubling down of this? If you were to say, listen, I was provoked. Yes, we're all human beings. I was provoked. And I said things in the heat of a moment that I shouldn't have said. Although when it comes to putting things in writing, this is where, again, you're 70 years old. You've had lots of experience in your life. You've got this legal training. You should be able to control your emotions, at least what you express in writing, a little bit better, I would have thought, than this. Like, I'm surprised that you actually put this in writing, because, I mean, maybe in a phone conversation, I would have been like, oh, you're such a fucking bitch. But to actually write this correspondence to her, Yeah, because once you put it in writing, it doesn't ever go away, right?
Well, I agree with you. That is something that I shouldn't have said, maybe, but I will tell you what. Considering what she put me through, and just the badgering over a year and a half, I had to get her off me. And she, to me, you know what, I think that
Did she
person
stop messaging you after you sent her that email? Did that actually work? Did it get her off you?
No, it didn't. She continued.
I mean, obviously, you said you wanted to get her off you, but obviously that's not an effective tactic.
Exactly, but that also shows you what kind of person she is. She didn't care about the law. She didn't care whether it was offensive to me. She just didn't care, and then she continued. Okay.
Wow.
But at the end of the day, in any case, that does not amount to stalking. You've got a problem with my language.
Mm-hmm.
There is another way you can deal with that. But I wanted to deal with it. There was something that we were going to talk about your case. Because yours was a podcast, right?
Right.
It was a podcast, and they're saying that is harassment. Okay. I'll tell you what I was going to say. You see what your case is?
Mm-hmm.
Your case deals with effectively the principles that they put in there. The principles that they enunciated in there, they apply to freedom of speech, but they also apply to other freedoms. Because they said you have to, before you charge somebody under that offense, you have to look at issues such as proportionality. So in other words, you can't just say, okay, the elements of the offense are there. Because the elements of the offense are there, therefore you are guilty of the offense. What they said was, even if the elements of the offense are there, since under the European Convention on Human Rights, proportionality is a principle that you apply, you have to say, well, would it be proportional to charge this person? Okay? Would it be proportional? Because they have also a right of freedom of speech. In my case, what I'm trying to say is that principle extends beyond freedom of speech. It extends to other fundamental rights. For example, in my case, I've got a right under the Constitution called security of the person. Meaning, you can't just come into my house. You can't just send me an email to my private email, and especially when those emails are unlawful. I've got those rights. So in other words, when I respond in a certain way, you have to understand that, first of all, you have violated my rights by doing what you've been doing. And therefore, when I respond, maybe I might respond in a manner that is very firm, but you have to find out whether that is really proportionate in light of what you were doing. Okay? And to me, that's the issue. That's why your case is important, not just for freedom of speech, but also other freedoms. Because what the standard they are supposed to apply is, okay, what did you do? You did X. Was that action intended to prevent something else from happening? Yes. Was it proportionate to that? Yes or no? And was what the government did or what the person did reasonably justifiable in a democratic society? Okay, and unless you are satisfied under all those, you can't say, well, like for example, in my case, that I violated her rights. If when you apply all those and so forth, there was a way in which she herself contributed to it. That's the way the law looks at it, and that's why I was citing your case to say it was not enough for the judge to say, oh, the elements of stalking have been met. What you have to do, you have to go beyond that and say, was it proportional in light of the behavior of the person on the other side? That is very, very important. And then the one that I complained against her, that is a much more straightforward offense, because the mere fact that you are sending me the repeated emails, that in itself is harassment, whether or not I feel that I'm threatened or not. The one that they made an order against me, you have to feel you are threatened physically. But the one I'm complaining against her, you don't have to do that. And by the way, the judge didn't even look at that. He just totally ignored it. So.
Okay. All right. What a hot mess. Thank you so much, my dear. I appreciate you coming onto the program this morning.
Thanks for the opportunity to explain it and so on. I love your people, whether they agree with me or they don't agree with me. They have a freedom of speech. I still love you, but I disagree with you. But thanks very much for the exchange.
someone does ask this question. They said,
Yeah.
suppose someone had said this about his wife, mother, or daughter, how would he have responded? So putting the shoe on the other foot, given all that has transpired, if someone said that to your wife, mother, or daughter, how would you have responded?
Well, first of all, I don't think that's a perfect analogy because that's somebody else. But if somebody said that about me, for example, I think it should depend on what provoked it. That's my answer to it. It's a question of what provoked it. If what provoked it is justified, then it's justified. Okay.
All right,
That's
my
my
dear.
answer to that.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Have
Thanks
a
very
good
much.
one.
You too.
Okay,
Cheers.
bye-bye. All righty. Another person says, one more. How he know her vagina is smelly? He just told us what I always knew. Well, that's my character. They did a little bullseye thing there. So, I mean, he said it. He said that's his character. So I guess we must believe him if he says it. I mean, Carrie says, trust me, in my honest opinion, she not no lady. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know the woman, but again, I'm not so sure that has anything to do with. I don't know. Like there's blows, right? Verbal blows when you say something to someone, and then I think you can go way below the belt. You know, even in an argument and stuff with people. Okay. Let me give you an example. Remember the story I told you guys that where I ran into Barbara Connolly and she was like saying stuff to me and I responded to her. She said something to me first. She called me a bitch. And I was like, so what? Am I supposed to be offended by you calling me a bitch? I'm like, you're a slut. And the world keeps spinning. Who cares? Call me a bitch. I'm a bitch. Whatever. That's fine. You're a slut. Are we gonna go tit for tat? But there are other words that you can choose to call someone. I mean, a slut, it's not a nice word, but it's not the worst of them. Like the C word, the see you next Tuesday word. That's when you're going low when you call someone to see you next Tuesday. When you talk about a woman's vagina and you don't know her vagina. I'm pretty sure they've never had any kind of relationship of that sort. Not for nothing, but I really, Mr. Balika, I can't give you right where it doesn't make any sense. Now, does that amount to a stalking order? That's a legal question. That's a legal issue. And I do think that how she got a stalking prevention order in place is a little bit weird. The guy doesn't live in this jurisdiction. Stalking to me isn't just about sending emails. I mean, was he trying to get in contact with her? He hasn't been in contact with her in 7 months. He's not going around her house. He's not going around her. So I don't think that it might amount to harassment, but I don't think it amounts to stalking. This is not my definition of stalking, but obviously the judge disagreed. Jim says, I've enjoyed listening to this man over time on CMR platform. I am, however, shocked that he chose the words that he did against this lady or any lady. It would be in his best interest to man up and apologize for his choice of words. At the end of the day, we're all human, but still, this man is supposed to be educated and a representation of class. And to that point, I mean, he did say, when you say, what a pint, poor Gigi, she's going to be trying to say that correctly. What a pint. The pint is, and he did touch on it, that it's now a matter of public opinion of him. But yes, not for nothing, but you have created this space in the community. Although you don't live here, you still participate in our discussions and so on, as you know, freedom of speech, have a right to do. But you have certainly put out this persona that you're a person who stands for certain things. And you always in the past have come across as very respectful. But to now hear and see that you have private communications with someone who you don't even have a relationship. Listen, if they had a relationship with each other and maybe he knew something more about her vagina, I don't know. If they were involved, maybe I'd feel a little bit different about this, but yeah, this is a lady on this. Yeah, she's annoying you, but she's the executive of the Strata. And so I don't know. This is crazy. Speaking of crazy, we need to talk about, I'm not going to do it right now, but on Friday, I told you guys I was receiving a series of messages of a young lady, and I use that term very, very loosely, who's sending out all these pictures of her in sexual situations. And I'm like, why is she doing this? Did she post it up? Supposedly she has an OnlyFans page. Like, we got to talk about this whole OnlyFans, what you guys are putting out there in the public domain, and how you're destroying your own reputations, quite frankly. Right? Now, if somebody was out there saying, well, she's a slut, she's a whore, she's a this, I mean, she put it out in the public domain, so I guess people can have a discourse around this sort of thing. But Mr. Balika, I think you were wrong here. And it probably would have been in your best interest to just apologize and say, yes, I should not have said that to her. Brittany says, I don't know. His side of the story smells. Pun intended, no doubt. Carrie says, let that comment and deal with her, and they will have a different comment. Well, again, Carrie, I mean, it's what you say. It is really what is, it is what you say and how you say it. This concept of foreclosing on a home, though, like I said, we're going to do a deep dive. This is a miniature, 10 to 15 minute segment on things that are critical. And I already had this one prepared from previously, but I'm going to air it this week. This is about a woman who they were trying to do the same thing. The Strata was trying to take her apartment for non-payment. Now, in this instance, she owed a lot of money. I don't know how much money in arrears Mr. Balika was. He said he was paying something, but I guess wasn't paying the full thing. But when you get into stratas, that's why you sign and you're part of, when you purchase a unit strata, you're part of the strata bylaws. And if you've never looked at your strata bylaws, you better look at them, because there's certain obligations that are on you. And that is why when you purchase a unit that is part of a strata, the bank needs to see certain things, right? For example, they need to know that before you purchase it, that unit has no outstanding strata fees, et cetera, et cetera. Educate yourselves, folks, about how stratas work, because you could be getting yourself in a very, very precarious situation. Michael says this guy is always the victim. Pay your strata fees. Gabby takes a slightly different view. She says you continually provoke someone and then get upset when you get a negative reaction. He is a lawyer, but he's still a human being. I would have thought, though, that being a lawyer would have meant you would have never put something like that in an email. Island Pearl says anti-pressure bust pipe, and even the most respected people get out of character. El Rey commented earlier as well. I think. I know you said something earlier, El Rey, but I can't find that one now. Oh, come see me, but come live with me. That's a saying that Caribbean people have. See me, come live with me, ... Two different things. Wow, I thought people looked up to this guy and he seems very knowledgeable with the law. My opinion has changed. Be professional, man, says John LaRue. Accountability, says Jim. Carrie says our ICT Act is bullshit. It is not modern. It is filled with communist clauses. Makes this country look very much putting muzzles on you. Well, I think it's clear from, again, not to keep referring you to my case, but the courts themselves said this is the case. This is going to be the test case for freedom of speech. And we're going to lay down what the law is. If you go, and I'm going to play the deep dive on it here today. Just give me a couple seconds here. They said if you go and read this case now, you should get an idea of what the court had to say. And that legislation was always being misapplied against me with the police. And I think now that's why they're now trying it under the penal code, because they know that they can't do it under the ICT legislation. El Rey says, as a professional, he's trying his best to justify his despicable communication to the woman. NR He in Gold says I should have just blocked her emails and wait to go to court. I mean, that's always an option, is to put her in the junk mail. You can't ignore people when they communicate with you by email. You can even block people at the server level. Melody says, when you poke a bear, does he cuddle you or does he growl and charge? So Mello seems to be on Balika's side. Carrie says, I have been to court and watched magistrates give custodial sentences for provocation. So why was she not remanded for her actions? Some deception went on here. Gabby says, yeah, I don't understand how it is stalking if she's the one sending him the countless emails and he's responding to her. She seems to be the stalker. Why didn't she take him to court for the fees supposedly owed? Well, she did. And they weren't able to sell his house, he said, but obviously he still has to pay his fees. Carrie saying, I heard they stole your son's expensive car. Did you get it back? The rumors are Jamaican stole it. What the hell? Shaka, good morning, says, playing devil's advocate here. Mr. Balika is okay in my books, but resorting to language that will express his levels of frustration. I mean, again, I agree that it's shockingly gross. I agree that it's highly offensive. I'm not sure it's highly abusive, but I guess in layman's terms is what the judge was trying to capture, Justice Walters. I mean, if you had just said that she was a piece of shit, yeah, POS. But I think you went too far, Biggs. When you start talking about the woman's vagina, that's too much. That's too much. I think that's where you definitely stepped over the line in my book. Like, it's not cool. Carrie says, bitches in our culture. What a hot mess. Marshall says, when you're cussing out someone, you don't have to know anything about them or their private parts to do so, right? But I'm saying is, you don't have to go that low either. Like, it's different. I guess everybody has a different vocabulary, but I'm sorry, it's too different. Jim says, call me old school, but when a woman calls another woman names is one thing. Still not classy. But when a man calls a woman derogatory names, it's something different. And I'm gonna give Jim a kaboom. I think that, yes, I mean, his argument was like, I don't care if you're a man or woman, you come at me and you're gonna get called whatever. But I don't think you go around telling a man what his penis smells. Like you would never say that. Never. I mean, come on, that doesn't even make, I'm not gonna say it doesn't make any sense, but who says that? So I don't think you would have made similar comments to a man. You probably would have just said, listen, dude, you're an asshole. Stay the fuck out of my DMs or emails or whatever. I do kind of low-key think there's something with him and women here. To hear that kind of comment in an email. I agree with Jim. How is he upholding the rule of law and the integrity of the legal profession by acting in this manner? Current law student, Lucky Body. Well, I guess he isn't, because I think he's not in this jurisdiction. I don't even know if he's practicing law where he is. Sounds like he's in retirement mode. So I don't know. Carrie says, I don't care. Mrs. Mamba is way the hell better than her. She never stood up for us the way he has. If it was a jury and I'm one, he would be vindicated on provocation. El Rey says he was wrong yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Carrie seems to have an issue with this woman. Carrie, we get your point. We get the pint. You don't have to keep going on and on about it. You must have posted like 20 messages now that she's not a good person in your eyes. I think we got that point. Marshall says this conversation only goes to show you that you can't put anyone on a pedestal, no matter how educated they are, what position they hold, including me. Please, please, please do not put me on a pedestal, folks. Now, have I ever said anything like that to anybody? I don't think so. Not in my 52 years. Like I said, I'm normally going to just be like, you're such a fucking bitch. That's what I would say to you, probably. And if you keep provoking me, what would I then say? Would I tell somebody to go suck their mother? I don't think I've ever said that, but I guess if it got really, really heated, maybe that's the worst I would say. I don't know. Because that is pretty offensive too. And your mama not got nothing to do with this argument. So I probably wouldn't bring your mama into it unless she was part of the argument. Then I might say, you know what I said to Barbara that really got her going? I said, why didn't you go call Alden? And that is when her head spinned around like she was in The Exorcist. She was like, you mentioned Alden's name to me? And I was like, oh my God. She looked like she wanted to touch me. And I said, please don't do that. As an adult, I have never put my hands on nobody. Okay. And I wouldn't want to do that. I haven't done that in 52 years. I did once in high school. That was self-defense against Mike. Mike was harassing me. But when I called Alden's name, it was like something came out in her. I said, poor her. She's still in love with him. Poor thing. Good morning, Carla, honey child.
Morning from the bluff. How y'all doing today?
Hi, Carrie. I think we got your point, you know.
Yeah, you got my point?
Yeah, I got your point. Loud and clear.
Seriously.
Come
I
on,
would
Carrie.
be
If
on
somebody
his
told
side.
you about your smelly vagina, now you know you would be.
Well, first of all, I would say to them, how the hell you know it was smelly? How you know it's smelly? You not been there, so you can't say that about it.
Oh my
If you
God.
feel that it is smelly, which mine ain't, it's beautiful as fact. It
We'll
smells like
take your
lavender.
word for it. We don't really care, but we'll
Anyway,
take your word for it.
Anyway, my point is this: provocation was there, very strong, and I'm very, very annoyed, and I'm very surprised with Alistair Walters, whatever, about his decision, as the fact that he didn't even acknowledge that she created this entire monster in the room and poked the friggin' monster, kept poking him. So, you know, it has to be a fair balance, and it really wasn't a fair balance as far as I can see and from what I understand. And I can afford to tell you, and I'm not looking at it from her side, meaning like, I know she's not a nice person. God, I know she's not a nice person. God, I know that. But my point of it is, she started this. She created this. And stratas are very, very much like that. I had a strata get their lawyer over at HSM write me a letter with lies. They wrote a letter to me and accused me of something I never did.
Without a doubt, stratas, and I've said this, can be very, very annoying. Trust me, I know. And I mean, we had one lady from hell. I was so glad when I sold my apartment. I remember, this is going to be 10 years now that we've been in the house. I remember at the time, Marlon said to me, you know, should we try to keep the apartment? That's an investment property. Like, you never try to sell property or land if you can help it, right? So we could float both. We can qualify without it. Like, what do you think? Let's just keep it. And the sole reason I said hell to the no was because of this one strata, one person. It was only a fourplex. But this one person in the strata was making everybody's lives miserable. So I said, you know what? She seems to get miserable when she didn't have a man in her life. I'm just saying. So I said, no, I don't want the headache of dealing with stratas anymore. So I said, no, let's sell it. Although, you know, maybe we feel like we could handle both. It'll put us in a better financial cushion. Because, you know, when you buy a new house, you got to upgrade and do stuff. And who wants to buy a new house and not be able to afford anything to do, like curtains and this and that, whatever. Right. So I was like, no. Let's just sell it. Have somebody else deal with the stratas, because stratas can be hell.
They are. And I have seen how racist some of them stratas are in Grand Cayman as a property manager as well. Oh, my goodness. And that is so unfair. And the things that they do to some of the people, and the ones that get the worst treatment in stratas, and you can take that from me being a property manager for 10 years, are us natives. They don't want us on the board. They do everything in their power. I see at my last strata I sold, never bothered with no more. The woman bought her property 1 month after she bought her property and moved into it. The board changed. They had the annual meeting and appointed her to the board now with the 2 years. So I'm telling you, they are very racist. They're biased. They're prejudicial when it comes to us natives, and they do everything in their power to push us out of the strata. That's how I have seen it over the years. And stratas have too much power over your property. They should not have that much power over your property. That is why you need to know the bylaws
and what the strata law says. But anyway, leave me there, Carrie. On Wednesday's Deep Dive show, Wednesday at midday, you can tune in. Like I said, we already had that one prepared. And there's some important things I think that everyone, if you are a strata member, in other words, you have an apartment complex as part of a strata, you need to know what the strata bylaws say, what the strata, you know, how the strata operates. So we'll get to that. Good morning, caller.
Yes, Sandra, very short call. I know we had a lot of time to discuss this, but I just thought I should just rejoin on one little point there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the things, well, like what you are saying and what a lot of people are saying, to tell you the very truth, I don't have a problem with them, because sometimes when we are not in that position, we can sit in the judgment seat. But the point I want to make is this. Do you know that the judge hasn't helped in the way he wrote the judgment? Now, if in his judgment he had said, I agree that it was really provocative and annoying to be sending somebody bills that they don't owe, even after they are asked to stop.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I feel that the response was too much. If the judge had said that, to tell you the very truth, I wouldn't have had a problem. But you know what he did? He never made any comment about the provocation aspect of it. In fact, what he did was, he has got a paragraph there, I think it's paragraph 64.3, where he says, everything that she did was in exercise of her power as a member of the executive committee. That can't be right, because as a member of the executive committee, I have no problem you sending me bills, because that's your job. But when you know very well, and you've got a lawyer advising you that I do not owe the legal fees, you know that, and you've been advised, you know that, and you keep sending those emails, how can the judge say that, well, even that was in exercise of her powers? Do you see, when a judge does that, plus the other unfair things he did, it doesn't put me in a mode to start to apologize. Do you understand that? It is like at the end of the day, you are not acknowledging even how I might have felt, even if you might thought it too much. It doesn't put me in an apologizing mode. I just thought that we should say that, because the judge showed he wasn't being fair either. I thought that should be emphasized.
Okay.
I thank you. I should let you go.
Thank you so much. Dean Shalette says, lucky it was just words. Some people get licked down or killed just for nagging people. Oh my God, well, we certainly can't condone that. Miss Nikki says, good morning, Sandy and everybody. Have a good rest of your day. Send encouragement from Vero Beach. Hey, all the way from Vero Beach. Thank you so much. We have Caesar, who joined us earlier, says, bendiciones, escuchamos desde Guatemala. So he says, basically, blessings. We're listening from Guatemala. Hey, buenos dias. ¿Cómo estás? Yeah. Okay. All right. Final comments, and then I'm going to play this deep dive here. Shaka says, it appears that we are debating the levels at which Mr. Balika was willing to resort to. In my mind, his response is all determined by one's level of frustration, not by what's norm or what's not. Barbara says, to me, buying in condo and paying strata fees is akin to paying taxes in a tax-free country. Well, somebody has to pay for it. I mean, if you get a house, you pay maintenance, you pay insurance, and all the other stuff. Stratas, because of the legal structure of how they work, the exterior of the property is strata property. That's group owned. You don't own individual portions of the outside. So the reason why, and this is why you have to understand what a strata is and how strata works. The reason why you do that, Miss Barbara, it's not akin to paying taxes at all. It's akin to nothing in life is free. And a strata would have to bear the cost of those things, which they do by you paying into the strata. And so you contribute to the cost of the maintenance and the insurance and so on, because the property has to be insured in the name of the strata, not individuals. Individual people can't go take out, they can take out contents insurance, which is one thing, but they can't take out insurance for the property in just one person's name. So again, these things from a legal perspective is very, very important. So Anthony's saying, is he saying that he don't owe bills? Well, he said earlier that he owed something. So he was making some payments, but I guess he owed something. At some point, he had fallen behind on his strata fees. Yes. El Rey says, boy, he's back trying to justify. All right. So let's play this deep dive segment. We did air it last week, Wednesday, I think, as part of, what is required for freedom of speech. It's important because there's a couple overlapping things here with this decision. Now, he has appealed it, so I guess we'll kind of wait and see where that appeal goes. Shaka says it's very simple. The system has driven Mr. Balika to levels unbecoming, but very much understandable by those who lived it. Many Caymanians can't relate, I can assure you. El Rey says Balika wasn't the first and won't be the last person chased or harassed by Strata. Man up, man. All right. AJ says he just said he doesn't owe the Strata legal fees. Not legal fees, but he owed some Strata fees. Someone says, I don't see why sending Strata invoices for money due and owing would be provocation. If it is money due and owing, the interest is accruing. It is my belief he had no intentions of paying his Strata fees. He planned to use his knowledge of the law to assist him. All right, sit back. Have a listen to this deep dive. This focuses, and I'm really surprised that Justice Walters said that he hasn't read this decision. It does make me question how much justices are paying attention to other decisions through the Court of Appeal that are precedent setting and should impact the way forward for them. Because the proceedings were not recorded in any way, which I do find a little low-key sketchy because they're supposed to be, because they were not recorded in any way, I don't know whether the justice actually said that or not, the judge, or if Balika has somehow misunderstood and got that wrong. This is why it should be recorded. And I am going to reach out to the court today in my position as a journalist and ask, was this recorded? And can we get a copy of the transcripts? Because it's supposed to be recorded. All right, sit back, folks. Here's a bit of a sip and learn segment this morning.
So where is the line? When does a journalist's hard-hitting expose cross over into being an actual crime? We're going to dive into a landmark case from the Cayman Islands where free speech went head-to-head with online harassment laws. And believe me, this legal fight has huge implications for journalists, politicians, and really for any of us who use our voice online. Okay, let's just jump right in with the single most provocative statement from the whole first trial. The judge basically ruled that the truth didn't matter. You heard that right. He said you could be harassed by true statements just as much as by false ones. And that one idea, wow, it set the stage for a massive constitutional showdown. And for this entire story, our guide is the official Court of Appeal judgment itself. We're going straight to the source, unpacking every detail of this incredible case, right from the legal documents. So how did this whole thing even begin? Let's break it all down. What was said, who was involved, and the exact law that was supposedly broken. All right, let's meet our key players. You've got the podcaster Sandra Hill, who released what was described as a hard-hitting expose about Matthew Leslie, who just so happened to be a political candidate running on a platform of transparency. Now, the court ended up calling the podcast a character assassination because it had some pretty serious allegations about his personal life. Hill, for her part, completely stood by her reporting, saying she believed it was all true. The charge against Sandra Hill all came down to this one law, Section 90 of the ICT Act. And the wording here is everything. The law makes it a crime to use an ICT service, so, the internet, to abuse, annoy, threaten, or harass. Just think about how incredibly broad those words are, especially annoy and harass. And that really broad law, it led directly to the first trial's most controversial moment, a decision that would become the absolute central battleground for the entire appeal. Okay, so this was a pivotal moment in the courtroom when Hill's defense team tried to question Leslie to actually check if the podcast claims were true. The judge shut them down. He flat out ruled that whether the statements were true or not was irrelevant to the charge of harassment, which echoes that wild judgment we saw a minute ago. So, with the truth off the table, Sandra Hill was convicted. She was fined 3,000 Cayman Islands dollars and slapped with a restraining order. The message from the court was loud and clear. Even if what you're saying is 100% true, you can still be found guilty of a crime if it harasses someone. But that wasn't the end of it. Now we move to the appeal, and this is where the case just explodes into a full-blown debate about constitutional rights. The stakes get so much higher. I mean, look at this. It's a legal collision course. On one side, you've got the super broad, kind of vague language of that ICT law. And on the other, you have Section 11 of the Cayman Islands Bill of Rights, which guarantees freedom of expression. So the big question for the Court of Appeal was, can a law against being annoying actually override a fundamental constitutional right? And this is where the story takes a truly wild turn. The document you're seeing right now isn't from the defense team. No, this is from the prosecution, the ones who brought the case against her in the first place. Yeah, you heard that right. In a pretty stunning move, the prosecution basically admitted the original conviction was a mistake. They actually stood up and formally invited the court to throw out the conviction, saying the first judge had made an error of law. They essentially switched sides. So, okay, with both the defense and the prosecution now pretty much in agreement, how did the Court of Appeal manage this? How did they resolve this clash between protecting people from harassment and protecting the fundamental right to speak freely? Well, what they did was create a brand new 5-part test to figure out what counts as criminal harassment. First, they said the speech has to be more than just offensive or shocking. Second, courts have to give a ton of weight to free speech. Third, context is absolutely critical, especially for political speech. Fourth, public figures, well, they just need to have thicker skin. And finally, and this is the big one, in a complete reversal, the court said the truth of a statement is plainly highly relevant. So, in the end, the Court of Appeal looked at the original trial through this new lens and found that the first judge had pretty much failed on all counts. He didn't properly consider the political context, the higher tolerance we expect from public figures, or, and this is the most important part, the relevance of the truth. Okay, so let's zoom out. What was the final verdict? And what does this landmark decision really mean for speech in the Cayman Islands? And maybe even beyond? The final outcome was decisive. The Court of Appeal allowed the appeal, and the conviction against Sandra Hill was officially quashed. Just gone. It was a massive victory for freedom of expression. But wait, the story has one more twist. On the left, you see the successful appeal we've been talking about. But on the right, that's a new summons, issued months later, charging Hill with a similar harassment offense, just under a different law. It really seems this legal battle is far from over. And that really leaves us with the million-dollar question that legal systems all over the world are struggling with right now. In our super connected digital age, where exactly do you draw the line between protected free speech and criminal harassment?
So imagine this, a podcast host, right? She runs a really critical, hard-hitting online show, and she gets convicted in court.
Yeah.
Not just convicted, but hit with a massive fine. And the reason, because her content was found to be, and I'm quoting here, intensely annoying under a modern technology law.
We're talking a literal conviction for character assassination. But then, and this is the amazing part, the absolute highest court in the land steps in.
Right.
They look at the case, but through this lens of, fundamental constitutional rights, and they throw the whole conviction out.
That whole dramatic clash is exactly what we are deep diving into today. This is the landmark case of Sandra Teresa Hill v. H.M. the King out of the Cayman Islands.
And it is a perfect storm, really.
Yeah.
You have these new, often very broadly written information and communications technology, or ICT laws. And they just run head on into this deeply protected fundamental constitutional right of freedom of expression.
Okay, so let's break this down for you. You've got a law that makes being annoying a crime on one side. And on the other, you have the Bill of Rights. So our mission today is to really trace that legal path and get our heads around the core concept that saved her, which is proportionality.
Exactly. Proportionality. It's this legal calculus that basically decides when it's okay to criminalize speech. And as we'll see, why that bar has to be set almost impossibly high when that speech is aimed at a public figure.
Right. We want to give you some real insight into the hierarchy of protected speech in a democracy.
Because not all speech is created equal in the eyes of the law. And political speech, that sits right at the very top.
So let's start where the trouble started, the podcast itself. The host is Sandra Teresa Hill. She runs the Cayman Marl Road, or CMR, website and podcast. Who was she going after, and what was in this relentless onslaught?
So the target was a man named Matthew Leslie. And he wasn't just some private guy. He was an active politician.
Okay.
He'd stood in 2 different elections, and his whole platform was built on transparency and trust. Hill's podcast was this hour-long, comprehensive expose. And the trial judge, he later called it a character assassination, a relentless onslaught on Leslie's professional and personal life.
And the allegations were pretty severe, right? This wasn't just minor stuff.
Oh, not at all. They described him as a sexual predator, said he was dishonest in his business dealings. I mean, this was hard-edged, reputation-destroying stuff.
Yeah.
And the trial judge, Justice Chappell, he saw that. He described Hill as being completely obsessed with her crusade against Leslie, lacking any objectivity. But, and this is the first really crucial twist, the judge also put it on the record that he believed she thought what she was saying was true.
Ah, that distinction, her belief in what she was saying, that's going to be important later.
It's going to echo through this whole thing, yeah.
Now, she was convicted under a very modern law, the ICT Act. Can you walk us through that specific piece of legislation?
Sure. It's Section 90, subsection 1 of the ICT Act. And it casts this astonishingly wide net. It makes it a crime to use an ICT network or service to do fraud, abuse, annoy, threaten, or harass any other person.
Just annoy.
Annoy. Think about that for a second.
So the law is basically saying that if you knowingly use the internet, say a podcast platform, and as a result, anyone gets annoyed, you can be guilty of a crime.
That's the implication. It's a massive potential chilling effect on any kind of online commentary.
I'll say.
And based on that, she was summarily convicted. So no jury fined 3,000 Cayman Islands dollars and slapped with a restraining order restricting her use of communication networks. A huge price to pay for a podcast.
Okay, and this is where the real courtroom drama begins, because the trial judge made a mistake that the appeal court would later call plainly wrong.
Right.
When Hill's defense team tried to bring in evidence to prove her claims were true, the judge just stopped them. Why?
That was his core error. He ruled that truth was completely irrelevant under the ICT Act, and his logic was all about the statute. He compared this new tech law to the old criminal libel law. The old law has a specific defense. It says you're okay if what you published was true and for the public benefit. Since the ICT Act didn't have that clause, he just assumed the legislature meant to exclude truth as a defense entirely.
Wait, hold on. So because the law didn't specifically say it's okay if it's true, he decided it's a crime whether the allegations against a politician are stone-cold facts or not.
That is the stunning conclusion he came to.
Yes.
He essentially made the prosecution's job incredibly easy. All they had to prove was, 1, she used the network, 2, the politician was in fact annoyed or abused, and 3, she knew this would be a likely outcome. He just sidestepped the whole messy business of truth.
I can see why that conviction was appealed almost immediately. I mean, when you take away the ability to even argue the truth of claims against an election candidate, that's a problem.
It is, but to be fair, the judge did tip his hat to a higher power. He acknowledged that Section 11 of the Bill of Rights, the part that guarantees freedom of expression, was engaged. He knew it was in the room, but he thought he'd already balanced it against the politician's reputation just by applying the rules of the ICT Act. The Court of Appeal. Oh, they fundamentally disagreed with him on that.
Which brings us to the appeal, the constitutional heavyweights. And it's pretty telling that the Director of Public Prosecutions, the DPP, actually conceded the appeal.
That's huge, yeah.
They basically admitted the judge got the law wrong, that the whole case was built on a legal mistake.
Exactly. And that just cleared the runway for the appellate court to do what it does best. Focus on the explicit constitutional protection. They zeroed in on Section 11 of the Bill of Rights, which, just for context, is basically identical to Article 10 of the European Convention on Human Rights.
Meaning they can draw on all this foundational free speech precedent from the UK and Europe?
Precisely. They were forced to apply the highest possible standard here, and that means using the proportionality test.
We hear that term a lot. In this context, what does that test actually involve?
It's a 3-part test. It's like a series of gates the state has to get through to justify restricting speech. First is the interference, the conviction prescribed by law.
Yes, the ICT Act.
Okay. Second, is it for a legitimate aim?
Protecting someone's reputation.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then you get to the final and highest hurdle. Third, is the conviction necessary in a democratic society?
Ah, that's a proportionality test. Is this the absolute minimum required?
That's it. And the court immediately pointed to this key UK case, R.V. Casserly, which established that just because you prove the ingredients of the crime, like you prove someone was annoyed, that does not automatically mean the conviction is proportionate or constitutional.
But that is such a critical distinction for you to grasp. You can prove annoyance, but that doesn't automatically give the state a green light to criminalize the speech that caused it.
Not at all. And the appellate court said the trial judge completely failed to consider 3 core principles from that Casserly case. These are absolute cornerstones of free speech law.
Okay, let's spend a minute on these because this is the real takeaway. What's the first principle he missed?
First, you have to give great weight to freedom of speech. It's a fundamental value. It's not just a nice to have. It's essential for a democracy to function. So it should always be the dominant right when you're balancing it against something like, preventing offense.
So practically speaking, that means if a law is ambiguous, you have to choose the interpretation that favors free speech. The law has to bend to the Constitution, not the other way around.
Exactly. The second missed principle was about the target. The judge didn't consider the need for tolerance, especially from people in public positions.
People like Matthew Leslie.
People who choose to run for office. I mean, if you stand for election on a platform of transparency, you're actively inviting intense scrutiny and criticism. You don't get to turn around and claim criminal harassment just because that scrutiny stings.
Right. Public figures have to have thicker skin.
The courts have said it time and again. And that leads to the third and, in this case, most powerful principle. The particular weight you have to give to political speech.
Political speech.
Yes. The court called it the apex of protected speech. It's the most vital kind of speech for a democracy. So when you have speech that targets an election candidate about issues like trust and transparency, any attempt to criminalize that has to clear an almost insurmountable constitutional bar.
So the second this was identified as political commentary, the judge should have realized that a simple annoyance clause in the ICT Act was probably not going to be enough for a conviction.
He should have. The big takeaway here is that a government can't use these general anti-harassment laws to shut down robust or even harsh political criticism. The annoyance caused by that kind of critique is just. It's the cost of doing business in an open democracy.
Which brings us right back to the judge's first error, throwing out the evidence about truth. If the ICT Act didn't list truth as a defense, why did the appeal court say it was still relevant?
Because the constitutional proportionality test demands it. The appellate court said the truth or falsity of her claims is plainly highly relevant when you're deciding if criminalizing the speech is proportionate. They said there is, and I'm quoting, a significant difference in criminalizing the expression of what is or may be true and criminalizing what is false.
So even if the ICT Act was silent, the Bill of Rights was shouting. If the claims are true, or even potentially true, the state has far less reason to interfere than if the claims were just made up.
Precisely. The judge should have at least let the trial continue to test her claims. And beyond that, the court also pointed to Hill's own belief. Her sincere belief that what she was saying was true. That should have been an important element in the judge's proportionality calculation.
But surely there has to be a limit on that. I mean, you can't just excuse libel by saying, well, I believed it, if there's no basis for that belief.
And that is the crucial qualifier they added. The court was very clear. Her belief is only relevant if it was based on a reasonable assessment of the available evidence. It can't be a belief you reach with any sound basis. So that protects genuine reporting, but it doesn't give a pass to just being reckless with the facts.
Okay, so let's pull this all together for you. You have a podcast host making intense, maybe even abusive claims against a public figure, causing real distress, and yet the conviction gets overturned. What's the fundamental lesson?
The ruling is this incredibly powerful statement. It says that criminalizing speech against a public figure, even if it's annoying or abusive, must satisfy that high constitutional bar of proportionality. The distress caused by political critique, even when it's packaged aggressively in a podcast, can't just automatically override the high-level protection for political free speech.
So this sends a pretty strong message to governments everywhere who are writing these new tech laws. You can't draft them so broadly that you accidentally make legitimate political criticism illegal.
And the court was careful. They said quashing the conviction doesn't mean a conviction would never have been possible. For instance, if the speech was proven to be totally false and malicious, maybe. But they also noted that 6 years had passed, and a retrial just wasn't in the public interest anymore.
And just to show you this isn't some historical case, but a live issue, our sources show that Mrs. Hill is still navigating these waters. Around the time this appeal was decided, she was charged with new offenses under the Penal Code for harassment alarm or distress.
It's the continuing push and pull, isn't it? Individuals like Hill who use these platforms for aggressive, targeted criticism are always going to be bumping up against harassment laws. And the courts are constantly being asked to walk this tightrope. Where does the right to speak end and the right to not be criminally harassed begin?
And the Hill decision really draws a clear line in the sand for political speech.
It does.
So that's the core truth here. In a democratic society, you have to interpret your laws to give great weight to freedom of expression. Annoying a public figure with potentially true claims is not, by default, a crime. Proportionality is the key.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to take away. The court recognized that the language in that ICT Act, words like annoy, harass, abuse, is just dangerously vague for political discourse. So here's the question. As our digital world keeps evolving, are our legal systems actually capable of defining with enough precision where robust, aggressive free speech ends and where criminal harassment of an official begins? That battle over what is necessary in a democratic society is, I think, just getting started online.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.